Just so engrossed in cricket, and she trains so hard, and potentially harder than anyone else in the world that I've ever seen. And she just sticks out there and bides her time and waits for the ball to kind of tick those runs over.
Well, she's doing exactly that today. So 3 half-centuries in the first edition, 1 in the second, 3 in the third, 6 in the fourth, along with a couple of hundreds, 4 of them last season and 1 so far this season. She's a ridiculous run machine in the WBBL. And she'll be looking to add her second 50 of the season pretty shortly. Tennille Peschel starting off to Perry, who's just opening the face and slashing it away behind point for 4. So another boundary. She cannot be stopped at this stage. She's got 45 from 35 deliveries now, and it's 2 for 84. Yeah, just a bit full and wide there, and a batter like Kat that's in such good form just, hit that easily down to the boundary. The one thing we haven't seen so far today is them really, as we've mentioned before, pushing for these extra runs, running hard. Here comes Peschel outside the off stump again, just opening the face, gliding it away to backward point, where Chloe Paparo is small but mighty, very quick across the ground, makes sure she keeps them to a dot ball. Yeah, one thing that we've seen from a couple of other teams, I know the Thunder have been doing it, is really getting off strike every ball and running as hard as you can, even when you do hit it out to the boundary for that single. And, you could potentially get an extra 20 or 30 runs per innings just by running hard. Tennille Peschel bowling to Perry, who goes down on one knee and pulls away behind square. Will pick up a couple of boundaries with the sliding save out there from Heather Graham, who got down in the way of that ball. It looked like it might be going to the rope initially, but she's quick across the ground as well. 2 for 86. Perry reaches 47, and with that she evens things up again with Beth Mooney. They've both got 2,788 runs all-time in Big Bash cricket. Keep an eye on it. Peschel bowling to Perry, who's digging out the ball wide of her off stump to deep cover, where Lauren Down, the New Zealander, comes off the rope to field, through for a single. Perry farming to strike pretty effectively at the moment. She's gone up to 48. Couple of balls to come in this over. Yeah, the first couple of balls of Peschel's over, she was probably just dragging them just a tiny bit short, hence why they were dropping on the back foot and hitting square. But now she's getting her length back as she closes out this over. So a couple of cover fielders inside the circle for Peschel with that line and length. She's bowling outside the off stump. It's being driven to Lauren Down, the straighter of those 2 cover fielders. No run for Cap, who stays on 32. And the longer that the Scorchers girls can just keep them to 1, or that just keep dotting these girls up, the lower the score's going to be. Either of these batters don't really look like they've got much intent to try and come down and hit the boundaries. At this stage, they're happy to hold firm. Just whipping across the line is Marizanne Cap down the ground to long on, where Bolton fields. Just 1 run added, 2 for 88. The over comes to an end. We've had 13 overs bowled now. Cap on 33, Perry on 48. But there's always that potential with these two, isn't there, Charlotte? That they can go. They can decide when it's time to light the fuse. Oh, they can light things up. Most certainly, and hopefully we do see some fireworks shortly. But there's, as you mentioned, there's 13 overs gone, and they'll probably look to just keep doing what they're doing for the next 3 or 4 overs, and then one, if not both, will definitely go. They've got a long batting lineup. I know you'd like to see Jodie Hicks have a bat today. She's batting at 10. They probably don't want to see her bat today. Not by this stage. It would be pretty dramatic if she does get in at this stage. But the number of times that she's been next in and hasn't quite got there. So the start of a new over. It's Heather Graham bowling her little mediums, and the Yorkers dug out to the straight mid-on position where Piper Cleary is doing the fielding. So a dot ball. Yeah, and I would have liked to have seen them keep Barsby on and potentially even bring on Glenn at the other end. Test them out, make them create the pace. Full ball outside the off stump and driven by Cap down to mid-on again. No run. Yeah, just make the batters, rotate the strike and kind of get the power off. But, I mean, so far this over, Graham's bowled quite well. Nice and full and straight. Exactly what she needs to do. Graham into Cap, who again is finding Cleary at that straight mid-on. So this is exactly what Heather Graham wanted. She's just angling it in a little bit, just bowling in at the toes, nice and full.
Yeah, and that's 3 dots, Jeff, and I wouldn't be surprised here if Cap is just having a think about just playing a bit of a big shot, getting off strike. You never want 3 dots. You never want a dot in T20, let alone 3.
How do you change that up when a player's hitting that return crease so consistently?
Oh, I think you've just got to go a bit deeper. It looks like Kat might be in a bit of trouble here with something.
Yeah, she's just pulled away from her batting stance and walked behind the stumps near the keeper, down on her haunches for a few seconds. She's on her feet again now, got her gloves off, and looks to be a bit crook in some way. It's not like she's been hit or anything. There hasn't been an impact injury.
Yeah.
But
looked like she was kind of touching her chest, and maybe she's got asthma or
struggling with the heat out there, perhaps. Yeah, just tapped her sternum as if to indicate she was having some trouble breathing. The Sixers physios are out there, with the physio, the runner, the doctor. Some drinks and so on. Perry's in the circle as well. The Scorchers players have all gathered together with their own drinks waiters wearing the grey vests.
But certainly, Jeff, in answer to your question before, a couple of dots here, Kat would be definitely looking at, potentially going wide of the crease, going a bit deeper, and just trying to change that. Graham's bowling really good line and length, nice and full and straight. So if you can get a bit deeper or even come out of your crease a couple of steps and try and meet one on the full, you can really look to manipulate the ball and potentially, get a boundary.
We've seen a lot of wickets fall to the low full toss in this season so far. What's so difficult to hit about a dipping full toss? What is it that makes that hard to connect with?
Well, it's probably the worst ball, one of the worst balls that you can get out to, a nice juicy full toss that should be hit up into our box in the stands. But, sometimes you're just not expecting the ball to come full to you, and it can just come onto you, but sometimes a bit quicker, and you just lose your shot, lose your shape, and just hit it sometimes straight to that fielder.
So if you've just joined us, having a break in play as Marizanne Kapp gets some medical treatment. The Sydney Sixers won the toss earlier today and chose to bat. Elisa Healy was out in the first over. Nicole Bolton's off spin, her former national teammate, who would have enjoyed that dismissal immensely, caught at the edge of the circle at mid-off by Sophie Devine tracking back. And then Ashley Gardner made 3 from 6 deliveries before she had a big swish at a wide ball from Tennille Peschel that was caught behind by Beth Mooney. So those are the 2 wickets to fall so far. Elise Perry, 48 not out from 38 balls, has gone back to the top of the WBBL all-time run scorers list by 1. Beth Mooney will have the chance to take that back again later in the day as they keep swapping that top spot. Marizanne Kapp, 33 not out from 31 balls, but having some trouble out in the middle. We're waiting to get some information on what that might be. She's got her helmet off. She's running her hands through her hair and pulling her shirt up for the physio and the doctor to take a look at. I don't know what, but perhaps she has a stomach upset, whatever it is. Things aren't going so well, but she has to make a call pretty shortly, doesn't she, about whether she's going to continue. You can't just be out there getting treatment forever. Yeah,
we would think so, but I guess it depends what is going on out there as to how long they will stay out. We just saw the Sixers physio, Kate Leslie, run a glass of water out to her, and when you run, I don't know about you, Jeff, but I normally drop all the water. So hopefully some made it out to her. But, this would be a huge loss here because Perry and Kapp are going along quite nicely at the moment. And it looks like she is coming off. And this would be a huge loss for the Sixers, particularly if she can't come on and bowl.
Yeah, this is interesting. So Erin Burns down below us in the players' tents, these temporary marquees they've got down on the boundary line, has grabbed her bat and gloves. She was already padded up, ready to come in next. So she will be in. She's a decent player to have in at the back end of an innings, an enterprising, innovative sort of player. But we'll try to find out for you what's going on with Marizanne Kapp and what condition she's in. Hopefully it's just a temporary upset as she comes off sipping on that cup of water. So there must be some still left in there, Charlotte, after that run to the middle.
Some made it out there. And, you know, this is almost like caps are coming off, and it's like the Scorchers have just picked up a wicket. They've got a new batter in Burns, and very similar in a lot of ways to Cap and Perry. She'll just look to hit those singles, and, you know, she also plays a bit behind the stumps and has these pretty little, you know, funky shots that were never around in our day, Gozzy. But, you know, the Scorchers should really take a lot here and feel like they're back on top and potentially get a bit of a squeeze on. And I would like to see them bring a couple of fielders in.
So it's midway through the 14th over, 39 balls to come in regulation play. 2 for 88, the Sixers score, although it's effectively 3 with Marizan Cap having retired hurt for 33 from 31 deliveries. Interesting to see whether she's able to bowl later in the day as well. That will have ramifications for the Sixers too. So Heather Graham, after a long delay, will continue to Erin Burns, who gets off the mark first ball, drives it down to long off, through for a comfortable single, and the score moves up to 2 for 89. And
another nice front foot drive for a single down to the boundary.
They've been very consistent on the nice front foot drives. Here comes Graham bowling to Perry, who drives a lot harder to exactly the same position, long off, and they come through for another comfortable single, 2 for 90. Perry on to 49.
And I would expect Burns going out there with Perry, with Cap off the field now, that they'll just keep doing what Perry and Cap were doing and just rotating that strike, looking for the singles.
Graham bowling to Burns, who drives it just wide of mid-on, where Cleary is across the field, through for another run. So 2 for 91 at the end of the 14th over. Erin Burns will keep the strike. Charlotte Annaveld will make way. Thank you for your company, Charlotte. She'll be back in the second innings, of course. And at 2 for 91, welcome back, Michelle Gosker.
Good afternoon, Jeff. Good afternoon, all the listeners. Well, it's an intriguing part of the match at the moment, isn't it? We hope Cap's okay. I saw her having a look at her wrist. She must have one of those smart watches on as well, so maybe her heart rate's gone up or she's had a bit of dehydration, but we certainly hope that she's okay. But Erin Burns has gone out there. She's certainly a different player than Cap as well. Hits the different areas.
I thought players weren't allowed to wear those smartwatches because of corruption and integrity.
Well, maybe it's a Fitbit. Something like that.
Something that...
Heart rate monitor.
Something through which you cannot be communicated with by the outside world in a way that may affect the integrity of a cricket match. Not that that's ever happened before.
No.
2 for 91, the score. 6 overs to come. So the Scorchers having a chat. They've decided that Nicole Bolton will bowl the next over. Success in her first. Picked up the wicket of Elisa Healy. Bowled another after that, so 1 for 10 from her 2 overs. She's coming in to bowl her third. Little off breaks, and across the line immediately goes Burns out to the deep, and it's going to bounce once and skip over the rope for 4 at deep mid-wicket. She saw the 2 boundary riders out there and split them perfectly with a lofted on drive.
Yep, beautiful shot there by Burns. Really strong on the leg side, and that sweep shot's coming into play. You can see the fielders have got 3 out on the leg side as well.
Bolton. Ball back in her hand, now has to respond. Things went well for her earlier. They can change quickly in T20 cricket. Driven along the ground this time by Burns, down to long off, where Tennille Peschel picks up. Only a single, 2 for 96. Burns on to 7.
And this is where the Sixers need to accelerate. They're going to need at least, you'd think, 140, 150. They'd love 240.
So 240 will be very exciting from here. On the leg stump from Bolton, turned away by Perry for a run. They don't think about hustling back for the second as it dribbled towards the edge of the circle. Came off the pad in the end, says the umpire. So a leg by, which the wicketkeeper Beth Mooney tidied up, 2 for 97.
Yeah, she's done a great job out there, Perry. Just consolidated, and she'll now look to accelerate.
Burns eyeing off the rope, looking at Bolton, and then swinging it away to the onside off a big top edge, and it plugs at the edge of the fielding circle at backward square leg. So it was nowhere near anybody. There weren't any shouts of excitement. In the end, Graham had to trek in all the way off the rope to field that ball. 1 run resulting, 2 for 98. It
was like a pitching wedge, wasn't it, on the green? Just dropped short.
It did go further up than it went long ways. So It landed very safely, though. 2 for 98. Perry just walks at Bolton and drives her out to deep mid-wicket, but straight to the fielder. So in the end, just a single. There is her half-century. She's made 50, Elise Perry, from 41 deliveries. Her classic archetypal sort of innings, and it's the 19th time in the WBBL that she's got to her 50. Well, actually, it's the 21st time because a couple of those have gone on to become hundreds. She probably won't have time to do that today, but another 50 from the most reliable batter going around. It's 2 for 99. Bolton to Burns, who sweeps across the line into the gap out on the deep. We'll think about the second run on the arm. They're coming for it. And in the end, Burns will make it comfortably, raising the 100 for the Sydney Sixers. So it's 2 for 101 at the end of the 15th over. They've got 30 balls left to try to wreak whatever damage they can. You're on ABC Grandstand. I'm Jeff Lemon, and I'm making way for Melinda Farrell.
The WBBL. Hi, I'm Rachel Haynes.
I'm Elisa Healy.
I'm Nick Carey.
On the stance, big shout. Before and she's given.
Down the pitch, gets a full toss and hits it for 4.
On ABC Radio, digital and the ABC Listen app.
And I'm Melinda Farrell, and hello again, Gozzy. What a funny old innings this has been, hasn't it?
Yeah, it is, and so we've got more fireworks to come here.
Sarah Glenn on to bowl. Perry takes a big heave across the line at that one. Hits it out into the deep mid-wicket area. There is a fielder there, so they'll just get a single. Perry having just brought up her half-century in that last over. It's funny, you almost don't realise how many runs she's got. That's the thing with her. Lots of singles in her 50 with the occasional boundary, and you still look up and she's only taken 40 balls to get to a half-century. It is Perry, actually. No, Burns on strike now. They're a bit slow to change over. That one was just turned fine on the leg side, so no run there.
Yeah, she's a great accumulator, isn't she? And she sort of sneaks up on you, the opposition. I need to take notice of Perry.
Certainly do. Yeah, it's Burns, and she hits up straight to the fielder at cover point, who takes it above her heads easily. And that is the end of a short, sharp innings from Erin Burns, who came in because of the retirement of Marizanne Kapp, who retired hurt. And so that means the Sixers now are 3 for 101, but effectively 4 for 101 with that retirement of Marizanne Kapp. So all of a sudden things are moving along a lot more quickly in this game after it had settled into what seemed to be quite a sort of sedate pattern.
Yeah, and Burns will be super disappointed with that. She rocked her head back as she hit it as well, and she rocked back in her crease and went to play it on the back foot, but all she did was spoon that up to point. So it's a really big breakthrough there. Glenn, she picks up another wicket, and she's bowled extremely well here in this WBBL so far.
She has. Well, all of a sudden, this is looking very different from what it was a couple of overs ago. We're still waiting on word for what the situation is with Marizanne Kapp. It looked perhaps as though the heat had got to her, hydration. She was tapping her chest a few times. But now it is Glenn to continue to Dane van der Kerk, who just steps forward and defends that back to the bowler.
Yeah, that's a really big breakthrough. Another important partnership here for the Sixers.
And that time the ball is just driven down to long on, fielder coming around from deep mid-wicket. So they'll get a single there, 2 for 102. We've got some scoreboard issues, I think, here. Just confusing things a little bit, but we will carry on, soldier on, as Perry waits for Glenn. And Perry rocks back in her crease and goes for the squarish drive, but ball just trickles off the bat. So that is the end of Sarah Glenn's over. Wicket coming from it, that of Erin Burns. And the Sixers are 2 for 102 after 16 overs now.
Yeah, and that's a really good over there for the Scorchers. Let's just put the brakes on the Sixers a little bit. And we talk about moments in this T20 match. There's so many twists and turns, and that may be the over that saves the Scorchers chasing a huge total here at Blacktown.
Well, we saw earlier the innings had sort of settled into this pattern of easy singles down the ground, and just the occasional boundary picking off the balls where they had a little bit of width on either side. Burns came out, and all of a sudden the tempo seemed to shift up quite a bit. And now we'll just have to see what Dane van der Kerk brings to the sixes innings. She's on strike now, an open stance, grabs down, that takes that ball on the full by Graham. So they will run through for a single as the ball goes straight down the ground.
And van der Kerk has a really unique way of holding the bat. She's actually has quite a gap between her top and bottom hand, so it makes it really strong to hit in the air.
It's Perry on strike, though, and she whips that ball down the ground to, well, sort of wide of long on. But the fielder has come around from deep mid-wicket to field that one.
And traditionally, Elise Perry has a traditional sort of hands together in the middle of the bat, which you taught as a kid. But what I've seen in this WBBL, there's a lot of different styles which work for different people.
It's Van der Kerk on strike now. This time the ball's a length ball that she just drives straight to mid-off, so no run there. Sixes remain 3 for 104. She's got, it's funny actually watching from square instead of from behind the bowler's arm, actually. Just seeing the different things about the stances. Van der Kerk takes a massive swipe at that one, but straight again to that extra cover position, so another no run. You can see here more just how much that wide-legged crabby sort of stance that she has. Bat to the ground as she leans forward on the front foot, and this time she pulls the ball firmly but straight to the fielder at deep mid-wicket. They'll get another single. 3 for 106.
And also, Mel, we can see with the bowlers when they're bowling different lengths and paces as well. Hayley Matthews last night, I don't think she bowled one ball that 24 balls that she bowled, I don't think one was the same as the other.
Yeah, she certainly mixes it up. Perry is playing straight down the ground again. Fielder at long off will come strolling in as they amble through for a single. 3 for 106. Just wondering at what point, that is the end of the over, by the way, just wondering at what point we might see the sixes start to go.
I reckon now. They've still got plenty of wickets. Well, they have to. They're going to need at least 140, and, you know, that's another 33 runs away. That's a pretty formidable batting lineup here for the Scorchers with the form that Sophie Devine's in.
Well, guys, he's called it. We're going to have fireworks. The fireworks are going to start. And if they are, they're going to start with Sarah Glenn bowling.
It's a pretty hard ask, though, isn't it?
Well, it's Perry on strike, and she comes down the wicket and drives to long on for a single. So it's exactly as we've seen. But I did notice then they did run a lot harder for that first ball. Look to be waiting for the possible misfield.
Yeah, we've got all the field up on the offside here, except for long off, so maybe that's an option to go over cover.
Glenn comes in to Van der Kerk, who pulls, and there is a fielder there behind deep square wicket, but the ball misses her, misses everything, but it doesn't miss the rope. So that's 4 runs from Dane van der Kerk.
Yeah, really good shot. Just stepped across a wicket and tried to open up that leg side, and even a short fine there, and someone behind square on the boundary, she was still able to reach the boundary. So van der Kerk, what she does well, she makes the bowler think about where to bowl, because she does have so much movement, and that unique grip that she's got on the bat, she means she has more leverage with the ball as well.
So the Sixers, 3 for 112. We're in the 18th over, so...
Is this the over, Mel?
Well, you've called it. I'm relying on you. I'm relying on you.
You're in trouble there.
If we see another single down to long on or long off, I'm going to have words with you.
Well, I don't think van der Kerk will do that.
She is the one on strike at the moment as Sarah Glenn, the leggy, comes in over the wicket. It's full. She dances down the ground.
Oh, what's doing?
It's a single down to long on. Cozzy?
Well, you know what? Like, Perry, I've seen her, and this is where she does go. So I'm hoping she'll clear the rope over here, give the crowd here something to cheer for as well.
Oh, Gozzy's egging her on. It's Perry on strike as Glenn comes in, and she does go down the ground. And this time it's a single down to deep mid-wicket. So we do have a slight change.
She tried. That's all it's about, participation in cricket, isn't it? So she gave it her best shot there. But Just didn't quite get to the pitch of the ball. But I'll tell you what, if she does, it's going straight over the Sixers dugout.
We'll see. 3 for 114 as Sarah Glenn comes in over the wicket. It's spanked down the ground. Have they gone this time? Yes, they have. There's been a fielder down at long on all the time, but this time there wasn't, and that's exactly where the ball has gone, over the boundary. So there we are. This is it. Gozzi's called it. Have we got it? That is a boundary. Lovely ball.
Yeah, really good shot there, Van Niekerk. Just saw that opportunity to hit over mid-on that had come up in the circle.
3 for 118, the Sixers. And we have just one ball remaining in the 18th over from Sarah Glenn. Bit of a shuffle around of the field now. They have got fielders down on that long on and long off boundary and deep mid-wicket. Has fielded down, just trying to shift her around at deep backward square. So Glenn comes in and bowls. It's full, and she's gone over the top square on the offside, over the fielder at cover point. And they are going to prevent a boundary down there. So I'll run back for another run. So that takes them to 3 for 120, I believe, with this slow scoreboard. Yes, it is at the end of that over.
So 13 off that over. They definitely need a couple more of those, the Sixers, but better intent there. They're just going aerial. They've been hitting on the carpet all day, which has worked for them, and that's their strength. But now Van Niekerk just adds something different, doesn't she? And this is where Perry can come into her own. She's been so proficient in hitting over the infield the last couple of WBBL seasons. So let's see this happen here.
Yeah, interesting to see where she hits over the infield. There is an awful lot of space there on the leg side as she whips this ball around from Heather Graham to the fielder at deep backward square leg. But there's a huge gap between that fielder at deep square leg and the one at deep mid-wicket, isn't there?
Yep, and you can tell she rocked her head back and a bit of frustration there that she's missed out on a full ball there.
Yeah, there's absolutely no one there beside those two fielders. So Graham comes in once more and, well, she's hard to play. I'm not even sure. Did reverse that one? Yeah. But she's missed it completely. There was a bit of a shout. But that all just looked a little bit messy from
side on, Mel. The length was good. Just must have been the line, so...
So Van Niekerk waits once more as Graham comes in. It's a length ball and she goes aerial, but there is just two bounces before it reaches the fielder down at long off. So they'll take another single. 3 for 122. Yeah,
the Sixers desperately need a four here. It's really good bowling by Heather Graham.
And they've worked hard on placing their fielders in the right spot as Graham comes in once more, and this is driven very hard and it splits the fielders at long on and deep mid-wicket, and so that is another boundary for Perry, cutting loose as the innings for the Sydney Sixers reaches its conclusion. 3 for 126 they are.
Yeah, just got a length wrong there, Graham. Perry was just able to get underneath that a little bit. It's a really good shot. Rocketed away, didn't it? It did.
The placement of that, because she's hit so many directly to those fielders at long on and long off. This time she was able to get it wide of that fielder at long on. All the difference there. Can she do it again? Well, Heather Graham comes running in, and this time it's a slightly shorter ball, and it's hit in virtually the same direction as the previous one, but this time the fielder at deep mid-wicket comes running down. Darnay Van Niekerk had come halfway down the wicket before she was sent back by Perry. The ball was thrown to the keeper, Beth Mooney, who whipped off the bails. There was a shout. The umpire has just shook her head there. So no run out, but a bit of excitement there.
It was, and we're directly in line, so I could categorically say that is not out. They could almost have run two then. Like Van Niekerk had made her way halfway down the pitch, and Perry obviously was on the back foot when she played the shot, so she was a little bit behind the 8 ball there, but...
Yeah, well, and this is part of what we've been saying, haven't we, about not pushing that first run a little bit harder. She'd strolled through, but it's Van Niekerk on strike now, who sweeps hard, and there's a big shout from Beth Mooney, who leaps in the air with ball in hand, thinking that there might have been a little fine nick there. But, again, The umpire remains calm.
Yeah, well, sometimes that's a bit of gamesmanship as well. Gameswomanship behind the wicket, trying to prevent the umpire putting their arms out for that wide.
Surely not. Van Niekerk on strike. It's full and she just drives into the covers. And this time they've gone for a single, and it is a bad decision because Dane Van Niekerk has been run out by absolutely miles. She has gone. Perry had come down the wicket. Dane Van Niekerk was not interested in the single, but in the end she had no choice because Perry had come down too far. Bad communication perhaps between the two, but the end result is the Sixers have lost their 4th wicket. Dane Van Niekerk making her way back to the dugout.
Yeah, a bit of miscommunication there. I mean, they have to go for it here, the Sixers. So, unfortunately for Sixers, Van Niekerk has to depart, but more importantly, Perry's still out there, and it brings Angela Reeks to the crease, and she certainly can hit a long ball. I suspect she might try and go behind the wicket as well here, so down to 3rd and fine.
Do you think that this is perhaps a little bit of a result of what we've seen, though? The fact that they have been quite slow in running between the wickets, happy to stroll through for those singles. All of a sudden, when you want to up the pace, is that easy to just switch it on like that?
It's pretty tough, Mel. You're right. You nailed it. And it is difficult. And you see some certain teams try to take advantage of that power play. Normally, Healy's the one that does that, or a Gardner. But unfortunately for the Sixers, they departed early. So maybe it might be runs on the board, Mel.
Well, we shall see. This is the final over, and it's going to be Peschel to bowl, and Angela Reeks, the new batter at the crease, is on strike. Peschel runs in over the wicket. It's quick, and she goes for a mighty swipe. Reeks, all it does is trickle back to the bowler, so no run with just 5 balls remaining.
We nearly got blown away by that swing there. She swung so hard. She nearly pulled her arm socket out, but she gave it all. Unfortunately, she just missed the ball.
She's just taking her time now, having a look around. Again, there's an awful lot of space down directly in front of us, square leg. This time the ball's full, and she leans back, cuts away, takes it on the full. It was a filthy full toss, and she's dispatched it dismissively all the way behind point for 4 for 136.
Well, it couldn't have been far off being a no ball as well. Reeks is batting well back into her crease. I suspect if she was batting up near the front line, it probably would have been a no ball, but really good shot there by Reeks, and just taking advantage of that offside being up.
And so it's interesting that the gap's out here, but she's gone the other way. So Reeks on strike. This time she tries to come towards square wicket, but the ball's trickled the other way. The keeper, Beth Mooney, runs to her right and picks up, and they manage to scamper through for a quick single.
Yeah, we can see Reeks was trying to set up to hit out to this leg side area, but unfortunately for her, just rocketed into a pad. But they did scamper through for a single, but brings Perry back onto strike.
We haven't said that very often, scamper through for a single. 4 for 133. Perry on strike. It's full, and she just tries to put bat on ball and guide it down to 3rd, but manages to not make contact at all, so no run. So this is a good comeback by Peschel.
Yeah, it is, and they've bowled pretty good today, the Scorchers. Bowled to their plans and sort of haven't panicked either, have they?
They haven't. She's been really impressive the way she's taken some big scalps as Peschel. And she runs in once more, bowls over the wicket, and that's spanked square of the wicket down in front of us here. But there is a fielder at deep square leg, so they will get another just 1 run, 4 for 134.
So, yeah, again, only a 1. So, I mean, they've done well. They haven't had too many dot balls, the Sixers, but just haven't been able to convert those 1s into 2s.
We certainly haven't seen many 2s run today at all. It's been almost all singles and boundaries today. Don't think we've seen a 6 either, have we? Reeks on strike. That is a high ball, and in fact that is called by the umpire straight away as a head-high full toss. That was nasty. Reeks had to sway and duck out of the way of that one, and the bowler Peschel just put a hand up straight away just to acknowledge and apologise.
Well, that reminded me, Brett Lee used to bowl those sometimes as well, those full tosses straight at her head.
It was a proper beamer, that one was. So she will bowl it again, Peschel. Reeks, waits, gets back into crease, down on one knee, drives. But there is a fielder at mid-off, and there's a shy at the stumps. It's missed by a mile. The bowler's missed it, and so they come back for a second run. She was out for all money if that ball had connected, or even if the bowler had managed to grab hold of that one. So a bit of excitement to finish the Sydney Sixers innings. They finish at 4 for 137. It's been a strange old innings. There were wickets early for the Sixers. Elisa Healy, she was gone, leaving them 1 for 4. She made 4 runs before being caught by Sophie Devine off the bowling of Nicole Bolton. Gardner was the next to go. She made 3 and was bowled Peschel, caught Mooney. Then we had a bit of a strange one with Cap and Perry forming a pretty solid partnership before Cap ended up retiring hurt on 33 off 31. Still waiting to find out exactly what that was. It looked like perhaps a little bit of dehydration. Erin Burns came in to replace her and made 10 before she was caught. Graham bowled Glenn. And Dane van Niekerk, she made 15 off 13 before being run out, with Angela Reeks not out on 4. And Elise Perry, the backbone of that innings, 62 off 52 she made, leaving the Sixers finishing 4 for 137. So it is 138 the target. What do you make of that? Is that something you'd be happy chasing here?
Oh, look, I think they're probably 10 to 15 runs short, to be honest, Mel. I think they've left a few runs out there. Obviously losing Cap, we hope she's okay. I think just losing that momentum with her, I just think they've cost themselves a few runs. And Perry, obviously, as you mentioned, was the backbone, but I didn't see that acceleration that we've seen in the last couple of years. So they need a good bowling performance here with the lineup that the Scorchers have got.
Well, yeah, and when you look at what happened last time with Sophie Devine, she will obviously be, along with Beth Mooney, a key. And it'll be interesting to see how Beth Mooney goes out here, because we know that after watching Marizanne Cap perhaps struggle with the heat, that's something that Beth Mooney struggles with as well.
Yeah, well, I always had the adage of if you hit a 4, you don't have to run. So maybe that's what Beth Mooney does today. But she's normally one of the best runners between the wickets. So, I mean, we all say how the heat affects her, but it doesn't seem to affect her batting too much. She actually does stay out there. So they're going to need her here today, and the bowling from the Sixers needs to be on the money. They're missing Hayley Silver-Holmes, who's out injured today. She was one of their best bowlers the other day, so big task here.
It is a big task, and we will shortly see how the Scorchers go about reaching that target. So if you don't go too far away, we will be back with all the action. 138 is the target needed by the Scorchers to try and replicate their recent win and make it 2 from 2 over the Sydney Sixers. So please stay with us, and we'll bring you all the action here from a beautifully hot, sunny Blacktown. But right now, we're going to go and check in with the ABC Newsroom.
Afternoon, Rachel Hayter with ABC News. It looks likely that Australians waiting for a COVID-19 vaccination will be able to jump the queue if they're willing to pay. The federal government will offer all people the vaccination for free if it passes trials and gets regulatory approval, with healthcare workers and the vulnerable prioritised. However, adjunct Professor John Skerritt from the Therapeutic Goods Administration says there's nothing stopping medical companies from selling additional doses of the vaccine.
We live in a free market economy, and there's nothing stopping companies, as long as they have the TGA approval, to put that vaccine on the market in Australia. We have no limit on the number of vaccines that we will be assessing.
A South Australian woman in her 20s who returned from Victoria on Monday has tested positive for COVID-19. The woman had been working in the aged care sector in Victoria and first tested positive to the virus in August. She returned to Adelaide on Monday and has been in a Medi hotel since, where she tested positive again. The state's Chief Public Health Officer, Dr Nicola Spurrier, says tests are being carried out to confirm whether the positive test is the result of an old infection.
We have done our contact tracing and we have 2 close contacts, and those were people that were sitting near this person in the aeroplane. We are very confident that nobody else on that flight should be considered a close contact, and so we have those 2 people we are requiring to be in a quarantine hotel.
The Finance Minister has confirmed a former staffer who featured in a Four Corners report this week has made a formal complaint about her time working in Parliament. 9 papers are reporting that Rochelle Miller, who used to work for Government Minister Alan Tudge, is claiming his behaviour in the office made her feel anxious and afraid. Ms Miller and Mr Tudge had been having an affair, but she's not making any allegations of sexual harassment. The Finance Department says it doesn't comment on individual matters, but states that any reports of workplace bullying are addressed in line with its policies. In a statement, Finance Minister Simon Birmingham says any complaints received by the department will be investigated thoroughly. Minister Tudge says he's aware of a complaint being made. The Prime Minister has rejected claims that the government's JobMaker wage subsidy scheme will allow businesses to sack workers over the age of 35. The $4 billion scheme announced in this year's budget gives companies up to $200 a week for each additional worker they hire between the ages of 16 and 35. Labor is moving an amendment to the bill which would prevent older workers from being sacked or losing hours to make way for younger staff. In question time, Labor leader Anthony Albanese asked Scott Morrison why he won't back the amendment to protect existing workers.
Now, what the Leader of the Opposition is putting forward in this place is simply untrue and is seeking to create fear in a pandemic, Mr Speaker. And it is irresponsible and it is reckless, Mr Speaker.
Victoria's anti-corruption watchdog has decided not to investigate allegations of money transfers from the Vatican related to the trial of Cardinal George Pell. James Hancock has the details.
Unsubstantiated Italian newspaper reports claimed another cardinal was suspected of wiring more than $1 million to Australia in 2018 to help secure evidence against Cardinal Pell in his trial. The 79-year-old's convictions for child sexual abuse were quashed by the High Court earlier this year. Last month, the Federal Police passed on information to Victoria's independent broad-based anti-corruption commission. In a statement, IBAC says the information does not meet the threshold to conduct an investigation.
A Year 12 student in South Australia says she'd already finished her psychology exam when software crashed. The South Australian Certificate of Education Board says it's investigating an unforeseen technical issue which led to almost 3,000 exams being disregarded.
We saw a lot of singles played down to long on and long off, but all of a sudden, Devine given a little bit of width.
Yeah, we sure did, but I think it's good. I think we've seen enough straight drives, haven't we, today?
We have Devine on strike, and this time she whips it fine. Was there a chance for a catch there? I don't know if she got the bat to the ball. It was a bit hard to see from here. It was down the leg side, and I don't think she did, actually, and it's been called wide by the umpire. Elisa Healy took a big dive, couldn't quite stop the ball, it trickled away.
And Stella hasn't quite got her line here on song at the moment, and I've faced her a number of times at club cricket, and she's a tall girl and she bowls with such height, and she just gets a bit of extra bounce than some of the other really fast bowlers do, and she's quite hard to face.
She might be the tallest one out there. I think it's a little bit hard to tell being up above, but she'd have to be certainly one of, if not the tallest. So the Scorchers are none for 7. We've had 3 extras so far in this first over, so it's a bit of a rocky start for Campbell. He comes in this time. This time the ball is flicked on the leg side by Mooney, and there was a shout again for the edge behind to keeper Elisa Healy, but again, no, the umpire's not interested. More of a positive shout that time, though.
Yeah, it certainly was, and Stella just hasn't got her line right, and the Scorchers will be pretty happy with this start. I think the Sixers have already bowled as many extras as what the Scorchers did.
Mooney on strike, the left-hander. This time she whips the ball fine on the leg side. There is a fielder down there at fine leg, so they will be content with the single. I'd have to say, they did run that harder than we saw the Sixers run their singles earlier. So none for 8. The Scorchers are in this first over. 4 legal balls delivered by Stella Campbell. She takes off on her run-up once more, striding down. And it's Devine on strike, who this time goes for the cut shot, but she has found the thinnest edge, and Elisa Healy takes the catch, throws the ball up into the air in jubilation, and that is a huge wicket for the Sydney Sixers. The danger woman, Sophie Devine, who really did take them to task in the last match they played. Well, she is walking back to the dugout, and the Sixers are celebrating 1 for 8.
Well, as we can see, Sophie Devine coming off the field, she's shaking her head. She's very disappointed with that shot. As we've said so far in this first over, so it seems to be going on forever, Campbell just hasn't got her line right, and that looked to be very wide outside off stump, and Devine probably could have left it and it may have gone for a wide, but she's unfortunately just nicked that edge, and as we see in typical Healy fashion, she catches everything and just throws the ball up in the air in jubilation.
She certainly did. So 4 runs made by Sophie Devine, the 1 boundary, and it's what interests me is we talked about that. The Sixers said, Elise Perry said, play straight, play straight. We haven't seen that. Nicole Bolton is at the crease and she whips that one fine. Elisa Healy managed to get her hand to it, but it trickles down to the fielder at fine leg, and they will get a single, and that she didn't actually touch it. There you go, that was a wide. A bit hard to see from here because we can't see the deviation of the ball. 1 for 10. The Scorchers now. So she said play straight, and so far we've seen the Scorchers not play straight and go for the width balls. So it's Mooney now on strike. It's Campbell bowls, and she's just dropped that in front of her straight into the ground, and they won't get a run. So that is the end of the first over. A bit of an eventful one. 1 for 10 is the score. Scorchers chasing 138 for victory.
Yeah, what an eventful first over, Mel. Stella just didn't get her line or length right, and as you mentioned, the Sixers played predominantly straight along the ground throughout their entire innings, and this first over from the Scorchers, all we've seen is a lot of square balls.
Of course, well, there were a lot of square balls. I suppose Stella Campbell was bowling with that, which she hasn't got the line right, you think, although maybe it was a tactic. Go wider, go shorter, tempt them, and hey, it worked.
And maybe, and Stella's got that just sheer pace, and she should be probably bowling a bit back of a length and really attacking the batters.
Well, it's Elise Perry, the captain, who is taking the new ball from the other end. And it's Bolton on strike as Perry bowls full, and she just whips that off her toes, backward of square leg, and that's all the way to the boundary. Lovely shot. She just used the pace of the ball, flicked it away, and that is 4 runs for the Scorchers, 1 for 14.
Yeah, we haven't seen... Perry hasn't been in great form of late with the ball. I think she went for 40 against the Scorchers the other night, picked up no wickets, but we all know what she can do, and she just needs, one good over to get herself back in the swing of things.
It's not often you see her go for 10 and over Elise Perry. Bolton, another left-hander, waits as Perry comes in, and she goes aerial. She goes over the top of mid-on, and they will come back for a signal. The ball just plugged there in the outfield. Wasn't sure if she was going to get back there in time. It seemed to hang in the air for an awful long time.
It sure did, and I know that Bolts plays a bit of golf, so it was a bit like a 5-iron, wasn't it, off the tee, and it just pitched nicely on the green and just didn't trickle over into the hole or over the boundary.
So Bolton out there on strike as Perry runs in, a ponytail flapping in the wind, and it's full and it's dug out the drive. The fielder on the edge of the circle at mid-off takes the ball easily, so 1 run there to add to the total.
And I like what the Scorchers are doing here so far. They've obviously lost an early wicket in Devine, but they look to be both batters in Bolton and Mooney, both representative of their country. And they're batting out there with intent, and they're looking to rotate the strike and get the runs. And also, with the power play, you can only have 2 fielders outside the inner circle, and they're looking to hit over the top and try and get some, early runs and get away to a good start.
Certainly a different feeling innings so far from what we saw earlier, although the Sixers did lose their big hitters in Elisa Healy and Ash Gardner early on. Mooney on strike. Healy comes running in. She goes over the top this time, over mid-wicket, and that's a beautiful shot from Mooney. Just spooned it over the top of the fielders. It's a fast outfield here at Blacktown, and that is another 4 runs to the Scorchers total.
Yeah, what a good start here by the Scorchers, and I'd probably like to see, them keep Stella on at one end and maybe bring on a bit of a spinner here in the power play and try and pick up a wicket. Both these batters, they're very experienced, but they do go quite hard at the ball.
So that was a lovely shot from Beth Mooney, and she remains on strike as Perry comes striding in over the wicket. This time she closes the face and just drops the ball on the leg side. It'll be picked up just in front of square. So they did scamper through for another run. It takes them to 1 for 23. Really different, though, in looking at the running between the wickets there already.
Yeah, Mel, well, I don't think you used scamper in the first innings, did you?
Once. I think I did once.
But they're definitely out there. They're batting with intent. They're looking to get on with it and try and get this Sixers total of 137.
So Bolton, it is on strike. The lefties, it's a lefty day at the moment as Perry comes in, and it's a fuller ball, and it's just played down to mid-off. So no run there. But it is funny, isn't it? Just the language changes, and we were saying they were strolling through for a single before. A different tempo so far, but the loss of Devine, just huge loss early.
Oh, absolutely. And, with the Sixers innings, they just didn't look like they were really batting with purpose. And Perry did her job and batted through the innings, but we're definitely seeing a different type of batter bat on this same wicket at the moment.
Bolton standing just outside her crease, and she's on the back foot. I think that ball was a little bit quicker than she anticipated. She'd come forward, she tried to play it, missed it completely. And so that is a dot ball to finish Elise Perry's first over. And the Scorchers are 1 for 23, chasing a target of 138 for victory.
Yeah, and on this wicket, we've talked a lot about it in every game, that it's just low and slow, and you just got to bowl on the stumps and, let the batters do the work for you, I guess, in picking up the wickets and just be consistent. So, Stella Campbell's having another over here, and she just needs to get her line right.
She bowled a few extras and wides in her last over, but she comes in this time and the ball is just straying down the leg side yet again to Beth Mooney, and it's called a wide. So yet again, Stella Campbell's just not quite got her line right.
Yeah, look, she's a young up-and-coming superstar bowling with, great amount of pace, but she's just struggling a bit with she was at the start with a left-right combination, and she just can't get it right to these left-handers at the moment.
It's two left-handers in. Mooney is on strike. Again, that ball's gone down the leg side, but it's trickled past Elisa Healy, who runs down off her own fielding. They have run back for two, and that's called a wide, so they'll get the 2 runs plus the run for the wide. And when you consider Healy ran down and fielded that herself, it shows you the difference in the running between the wickets that they got too.
Oh, absolutely. They're really pushing hard here, the Scorchers, and, you know, they're on 24 after, two overs, because we haven't had a legal delivery in this over so far.
So the Sixers, they are down a bowler. Marizanne Kapp not able to take the field, but Campbell bowls, and that ball has perhaps come off the pad there. There's a big shout. They do manage to run through for what will be called a leg bye. It's really hard for us to tell here. Being square of the wicket, you can't see whether or not it's a good shout for LBW or not.
No, you can't, Mel. It is hard, but, you know, from me, it probably looked just a bit too high, and, you know, Mooney just jumped a bit in her crease too. So, given not out, but both Scorchers batters still out there.
Yes, they are, and it's Bolton on strike, and this time she just leans back and just deftly fends that ball onto the offside, but can't pierce the ring. That was Mooney, rather. So no run again there.
Yeah, and they're going at quite a good run rate, you know, obviously helped by the Sixers bowlers at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see how long they can keep this up in this innings.
Bolton on strike as Campbell runs in, and she pulls the ball hard. It goes very fine to the fielder down at deep fine leg, but they'll just stroll through that time for a single, moves them on to 1 for 28.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long Perry keeps both herself and Campbell on. I would like to see a couple of spinners coming on at either end and, you know, really making the Scorchers batters.
It's now the ball being delivered by Stella Campbell to Beth Mooney, and she just turns that one on the leg side. Will take a casual single.
Yeah, and really make those Scorchers batters, you know, create the pace. At the moment, they're just doing it a bit too easily.
1 for 29. We sort of felt that with the Sixers, that it was easy for them to get the singles. They were getting a lot of their singles down the ground. Scorchers getting quite a few square and fine. Campbell running in, and again the ball just turned down the leg side. A nice little leg glance by Bolton, so they'll take another single.
Well, we've seen so far today, Mel, that, you know, we've called in the Sixers innings nice straight drive for single, and now we're seeing tucked away behind her for a nice single. So very different bowling what we've seen today so far.
Different bowling, different tactics with the bat. As Beth Mooney waits for Stella Campbell, it's full, and she's dug that out just behind point, but there's a fielder there, so they won't get a run there. That is the end of Stella Campbell's over. So the Scorchers 1 for 30. Target for victory 138. It's been a good start for them, despite losing the wicket of Sophie Devine early on. At a very different innings, as we say. All of a sudden, runs coming not down the ground, but behind the stumps.
Absolutely, and it looks like Ashley Gardner's coming on to bowl here in the power play, and I think this is a really good move, bringing a spinner on. You can already see by the loss of Marizanne Kapp off the field at the moment through potential heart issues that, you know, they're really missing her up front, getting the Sixers off to a good start.
They lose a lot of anger too, don't they? Because she's an angry bowler. I love Marizanne Kapp. Marizanne Kapp, Catherine Brunton and Shabnam Ismail, probably the 3 angriest bowlers in women's cricket.
Isn't it fantastic?
Ash Gardner, not angry perhaps, but what can she do as she comes down and bowls to Bolton, who steps deep in her crease and just drives straight to the fielder at mid-off. It's Elise Perry. Gardner again. Big day for her. She comes around the wicket, and this time it's straight along the ground past the bowler. 2 fielders there, mid-off and mid-on.
Yeah, and a good start here by Gardner, a couple of dots.
As Bolton waits for Gardner once more, back in her crease, steps back and whips it off her toes, square of the wicket. But they will get one single there. So first scoring ball off Gardner's over. Big day for her. She has designed a number of the players' shoes that they're wearing today. I had a good look at Sophie Devine's earlier. They're absolutely gorgeous. She's a very, very talented artist as well as a talented batter, bowler, fielder, everything. Is there anything she can't do? Person. Mooney on strike as Gardner comes in and she goes for the sweep, ends up bouncing off the hands of Elisa Healy and is called a wide by the umpire. So another bowler just perhaps straying a little bit, particularly down leg side. So again, Mooney waits as Gardner bowls, and this time it's just a little drop on the offside, but she sends back Nicole Bolton at the other end when she started to make a little run.
Yeah, I'd like to see Ash Gardner just try and look to change her pace a bit. At the moment, it's just too many easy runs out there.
She comes in once more, bowls, it's full and it's driven firmly. There's a shy at the stumps by the fielder at mid-on, but they got there easily in the end. It's been good running between the wickets between this pair.
Oh, it certainly has, Mel. So far in this innings, the Scorchers have looked to get themselves off strike and they're definitely batting with intent and they're looking to drop and run too. And I think in the Sixers innings, they didn't drop and run at all.
Bolton on strike and she goes for the sweep as it hit her on the toes. Elisa Healy went up, hands in the air to appeal. Perhaps should have run after the ball because in the end they've been able to sneak a run there. So another single to finish the over. I think that takes them to 1 for 34. We do have a very, very slow scoreboard here at Blacktown. Not always directly on the money. Sometimes it stops for several balls.
Yeah, well, I think Healy thought that might have bowled Mooney there and she kind of went up at LBW and then everyone thought we've got to get the ball, and both batters were almost, having a cup of tea in the middle of the pitch. Didn't end up taking a run, but, there was a lot of appeals and a lot of things happening at that stage, and Perry's now coming on the other end.
Yes, Perry has had a little change in ends, so shaking things up, changing things over a little bit. 1 for 34 is the score here at Blacktown. The Scorchers having lost Sophie Devine for 4 runs. Centurion against the Sixers when they played a few days ago. It's no longer there, but it's Mooney on strike. And this time the ball is slapped over backward point beautifully all the way to the boundary. What a lovely shot that was. Well over the fielder's head, safe all the way to the boundary. Beth Mooney, beautiful shot from her. 1 for 38.
Well, that was lovely, and she just opened up the bat face so nicely and just hit it straight over the head of the backward point fielder.
So Mooney on strike once more as Perry comes in. This time the ball's just bobbled off her bat onto the leg side, dribbled away. And again, they ran through for a really quick single. So this is impressive running between the wickets by these two, a lot more intent. 1 for 39.
Well, it certainly is, and I really like the way that these two batters are attacking these Sixers bowlers, and this is something that, we haven't seen from a lot of teams. Certainly seen it with the Thunder on the weekend, and now we're seeing it here with the Scorchers.
Bolton on strike, and she drives this directly to the fielder at mid-wicket, so no run there. Dot ball from Perry. A lot more on Perry's shoulders now without Marizanne Cap out there, so as captain, working out how to rotate her bowlers.
Yeah, there certainly is a bit of responsibility, but she's got some, able custodians with her in Van Niekerk, who's captain of South Africa, and Sarah Ailey's been around a long time.
Bolton now ready to face Perry. She lopes in, comes over the wicket and leans back and drives attractively, but no further than the fielder at extra cover.
Yeah, and so far we haven't seen too many dots out here with the Scorchers, and I guess that just goes to show the intent that they've gone out here to bat. They want to get these runs, inside, probably a couple of overs before the 20 are gone, and really look to dominate over these Sixers for a second time in a couple of days.
Perry against comes in once more, and there's another attractive squarish drive by Bolton, and this time she splits the fielders on the offside. It goes over the rope directly in front of us and into the Perth Scorchers dugout. Lovely shot there for 4, and things just ticking along nicely for the Scorchers as they move on to 1 for 43.
Yeah, they are ticking along very nicely, and again, Mooney's just, done a nice step, head over the ball. She's so balanced when she hits the ball, open the blade of the bat and just hit it easily to the boundary.
And it is Bolton on strike. Perry once more. This time she's back on her toes, quickly jumps back and drives the ball directly back to Perry, who fields, and that will be a dot ball to finish her over. 1 for 43, the Scorchers. We do believe that's what the score is. In case you're wondering why we've had a few interesting calls, the scoreboard and the scoreboards around here are offering different information, so it's a little bit confusing. I believe it's 1 for 43, even though the scoreboard is saying 1 for 42. I'm going to leave you now and let Jeff Lemon figure out everything to do with this scoreboard.
The WBBL.
Hi, I'm Rachel Haynes. I'm Elisa Healy. I'm Nick Carey.
Down the pitch, gets a full toss and hits it for 4.
On ABC Radio, digital and the ABC Listen app.
Thank you, Mel. You can run around the ground and find the scoreboard operators, give them a talking to if you like. It's 1 for 43. That's what we're going to go with at the moment. After 5 overs of this run chase, the Perth Scorchers out there, they'll be very happy to be only 1 wicket down. And I'm very excited to announce that Sarah Ailey has the ball in hand and she's coming back. The right seamer, she's bowling around the wicket to this left-handed pair, to Mooney outside the off stump. And as Sarah Ailey so often does, it's a dot ball. Nothing to work with, just squeezed to backward points. So Sarah Ailey, the second top wicket taker in the WBBL, 83 wickets so far in her career, hasn't got to play this season. And she's finally got an outing thanks to a couple of injuries. She's bowling outside the off stump to Beth Mooney, who's cutting through backward point for 4. Welcome back to the bowling crease. Sarah Ailey just had that bit of width and she was able to split the field. 2 fielders inside the circle behind point on the offside. And 1 for 47 is the score.
And Jeff, I think you've just put the mocker on her. You've talked her up and she's just strayed a bit outside off stump and obviously been put to the boundary where it should have gone. But Sarah Ailey's a very intelligent bowler. We don't say that often about fast bowlers. I'm obviously very intelligent myself. But she's got a lot of change-ups and she'll come back.
Here she goes outside the off stump and she's edged away by Mooney for 4 more. Well, that was not the bowler's fault. That was a drive aimed squarer than that. Got a big nick and as batters do, she picked up the fortuitous run. That should take the score to 1 for 51.
Yeah, and that was a great little edge by Ailey, and unfortunately there was no slip in place, but Ailey's just one of those bowlers that just knows what's happening, knows where she needs to bowl it, knows what type of ball she needs to bowl, and she's got every trick in the book.
She's going to work this out. I will bet you that that's the last boundary she goes for today.
Big call, Jeff.
Yep, I'm going to make it early and often. Outside the off stump, and she's being driven for 4 through the covers. Well, that lasted a long time. It's not quite going to reach the rope, is it? A good diving attempted save from young Emma Hughes, who's the substitute fielder out there, but she wasn't able to knock it back. She very nearly proved me right. Anyway, it's 1 for 55 now, with 3 boundaries in a row.
Is this where I say, and Mel Farrell's coming back on in the commentary box?
No, this is when you ask me to call the US election. We see 3 boundaries in a row for Beth Mooney. She's suddenly streaked away to 25. And Sarah Ailey having one of those welcomes back. She bowls a Yorker next ball, dug out to Ash Gardner at short mid-wicket, and there'll be no run. So Sarah Ailey, she actually got picked in the first game of the season, but it was one of those, it was a rain-off where they had the toss, so it was a did not bat, did not bowl, did not field type situation. And then she hasn't got to play since. She's finally got the ball back in hand, and she's bowling outside the off stump and drawing a play and a miss from Beth Mooney. Elisa Healy standing up for the wickets and taking that nicely behind the stump. So that's more like the Sarah Ailey that we know and love. It is 1 for 55, the Sydney Sixers score at the end of the 6th over, and that is the end of the power play. So the field can go back at this point. They can relax a little bit and try to cut off some of those boundary options for Beth Mooney and Nicole Bolton.
Yeah, and what a good start here by the Scorchers. 54 from the power play, and they're just going along really nicely. And in saying that, it only takes 1 or 2 wickets or one good over by the Sixers to completely change things. But at the moment, the Scorchers are certainly in the box seat.
Well, for the Scorchers, it may only take 1 wicket because their batting does fall away pretty drastically after their top 3. They're missing Amy Jones, the England wicketkeeper bat, who's usually in the top order for England, who's such an excellent T20 batter. And that means they've got Heather Graham coming in probably 1 too high, and then not a whole lot to come after that. Outside the off stump, Ash Gardner with her off spin to start a new over. She's bowling to Nicole Bolton, who cuts a single to the deep cover sweeper. 1 for 55 or 1 for 56.
Yeah, and you mentioned Amy Jones being out at the moment, one of the international players, and Steph Taylor's out for the Strikers as well. And it'd be really interesting to know if, having to quarantine in a room for 2 weeks has anything to do with why a couple of them are injured.
Gardner bowls to Mooney, who's forcing into the ground on the bounce to Dane van der Kerk at backward point. They won't get a run. Yeah, that could potentially be an influencing factor. We're seeing these sort of soft tissue, muscle strain kind of injuries for quite a few players. Gardner bowling to Mooney, who drives beautifully down the ground for 4, away through long on. They've got a mid-on up, and it went just square of her and straight enough to beat the deep mid-wicket who was coming around. So lovely placement from Mooney. And 1 for 60 now the score.
Well, gee, that was a nice shot. She's just so still every time she hits the ball, and playing on the onside on the ground is one of the hardest shots to play, and she just does it so easily.
She's on 29. She's back to top of the pops in terms of all-time Big Bash run scoring, gone back past Perry, and she's trying to run the ball away off the face behind point, but can't really get much on it. In the end, Elisa Healy runs around from behind the stumps and fields. There'll be no run. And, being cooped up for 2 weeks in a hotel room would not be ideal for your physical conditioning. And, again, it's one of those disparities we see between men's and women's sport, that all of the touring men's teams have been able to get quarantine exemptions to get out of their rooms and train. Down the leg side bowls Gardner, an attempted sweep from Mooney. It bounces off Healy behind the stumps. Just looking to see what the umpire signals, leg by, so it took a little bit of a deflection off Mooney's pad and then hit the keeper, and they managed to race through for an extra. So extras contributing 13 of the 61 runs so far today. Back goes Bolton on her stumps and cuts, but cuts too far in front of square and straight to Elise Perry at extra cover. So the 7th over comes to an end with the Perth Scorchers on 1 for 61. They're chasing 138 to win. They've got 13 overs left, thanks to Charlotte Annaveld for her company. Cheerful as always through the first 7 overs of that run chase. And Michelle Gosco is hopping back in, got the aviators on and ready to rock.
Absolutely, Jeff. Welcome to everyone listening out there as well. Intriguing part of the match that we're in. It's a little bit even balanced, you would say, at the moment, Jeff. I think the Sixers desperately need another wicket. These two just going on their merry way out here at Blacktown.
So much hinging on this partnership for the Perth Scorchers, Beth Mooney and Nicole Bolton.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 left-handers as well. Very efficient behind the wicket, as all left-handers are. But they desperately need a wicket, the Sixers here. Beth Mooney just continuing doing what she's been doing for the last few years in this competition.
Dane van der Kerk, the South African leg spinner, is coming into bowl from the southern end of the ground, floating a ball up. It's driven straight to cover by Beth Mooney. Sort of yorked herself a little bit, shuffling towards that ball and dug it out in the end. Dot ball to start, the leg spinner.
And that's what they need a few more of, isn't it? A few more dots here at the Sixers.
Just to try to pressure something rash. Van der Kerk floats it up. It dips nicely on Mooney as she's advancing, and in the end she chooses just to drive it soberly along the ground to long off and come through for a single. 1 for 62.
And Mooney's a little bit like a Ferrari, isn't she? She's got so many different gears. She can be in first gear and then all of a sudden she goes to 6, back to first. It's really exciting to watch.
And like a Ferrari, she's better along the ground than in the air.
Yeah.
Van der Kerk drops a little bit short. Dragging across the line is Bolton. Down the ground in the end to long on, where Ash Gardner comes off the rope. Another single, 1 for 63.
Yeah, and they're really good sweepers of the ball as well, these two. So a lot of work for the outfielders for the Sixers.
Two left-handers against a leg spinner. Unusual matchup. Mooney comes down the wicket, lofts it into the gap perfectly. Her timing and placement is some of the best you will see in the women's game. She's outstanding at hitting the gaps. That shot was lofted. She doesn't always go aerial, but she knew she had long on and she had deep mid-wicket and quite a bit of real estate in between them, and she picked it perfectly. 1 for 67 as Mooney rattles along to 34. Looking good.
Yeah, she's looking great here, and just so much time on the ball, Mooney.
A third fielder out on the leg side, a deep backward square. She gets a ball outside the off stump and cuts it to cover. Won't get through the field, no run.
And what I like from Mooney, she never tries to overhit it. She always just tries to get that gap. She knows she's going to pick up 4 with this quick outfield here at Blacktown.
Van Kirk ambles to the crease. A little bit flatter, and Mooney's trying to cut behind point. Can only get a bottom edge on it into the ground. Healy around from behind the stumps to field. So the over ticks by. 8 overs bowled, 1 for 67. The Perth Scorchers score. They need to get to 138. A dozen overs left to do it. So 71 runs needed from 72 deliveries.
Yeah, and they're doing this at a canter at the moment. Well above the Sixers that they were at the same stage.
Just wasn't convincing from the Sixers when they were batting. There was never really a point where they put the foot down, and when you've got a longish batting lineup, you need to do that. Gardner start a new over of off spin, bowling to Bolton, who's driving straight to mid-on, won't get through the field.
Yeah, it kind of had that feeling, didn't it, that they just didn't accelerate. Talk about Ferrari, they sort of got stuck in second gear with that innings.
A bit more Datsun Z20Y.
Yeah.
Around the wicket is Gardner, and driven straight back to her, and well stopped by Ash Gardner getting down. A firmly struck drive from Bolton, but again it finds the field. Bolton really just needs to get off strike at this point rather than necessarily be aiming to drive that hard at the ball.
Yeah, just a change in the field now. So cover is coming up. Sarah Ailey off the boundary. Got long on going back.
Yeah, at least Perry dropping herself back there to have a tall player on the rope in case there's a lofted shot. So long on and long off both back. So Bolton sweeps instead with deep backward square out. Misses, hit on the pad, no run. 3 dots in a row.
Well, it's pretty risk-free there for Bolton as well. There's no one behind that fine. So plenty of open space there.
Gardner in to Bolton, who uses her feet this time and finds the gap on the leg side, makes the deep backward square run in off the fence as she takes a single. 1 for 68.
It's a weird old game, T20, isn't it? Gardner bowled one over the other day at Hurstville and got hit for 24. A day before, starring in a match for the Sixers, and then today she's bowled exceptionally well so far.
So long on coming back up for Beth Mooney to become a mid-on, and then we've got deep cover dropped back. Sarah Ailey there. Down the wicket comes Mooney and just nudges the ball off her pads to the leg side. Thinking about coming back for a second, and will. That's good running. She knew as soon as she hit that she wanted to, because she'd dropped it softly into the leg side, and deep backward square had a long way to come in. So Beth Mooney ticks the score on to 1 for 70. Her own score up to 36.
Yeah, that's just too easy for Mooney off her pads.
So much space on that leg side between deep mid-wicket. There's just nobody out there. Outside the leg, the off stump goes Ash Gardner, and it's cut straight to Van Kirk at point, so no run from the last ball of the over. 1 for 70. What a luxury for the Sydney Sixers, when they've had a couple of injuries and then they've had Marizanne Kapp have to drop out halfway through this match and won't be able to bowl. The fact that they can bring in Sarah Ailey with 83 wickets across the history of this competition, they haven't needed her this season, but to be able to call on someone of that ability and experience, they're a very fortunate team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mitzi won't be happy with that first over going for 12, but you know, it's great to see her out there, the veteran. Not so much, let's not go with age, because that's could be games played as well.
Well, she's played just about more games than anyone aside from this season. Van Kirk bowling to Bolton, who has a big sweep at this. A sort of, maybe being generous in calling it a sweep. It was a bit of a hoik.
It was a hoik.
And she missed it. And it landed up in Healy's gloves behind the stumps. Might just need a couple of deep breaths, Nicole Bolton. Nope, she goes again. This time it's a bit more of a cricket stroke. Down the ground, down the long off, through for a single. 1 for 71.
Now, it kind of helps if you keep your head down and watch the ball as well. Your head went way up over. Just took her eyes off that.
It is remarkable how often you can forget to do that.
Oh, yeah.
You look at where you think the ball should be, not where it is. Down the pitch comes Mooney and drives to long off. Lofted, but it bounces a few times before it reaches Hughes in the deep.
So they're just stringing together these ones, but that's all they need to do. They're ahead of this run chase already.
1 for 72. Vanderkerk bowling to Bolton, who gets her sweep away this time, but it's off the top edge and
well
she'll
done.
be caught. Emma Hughes, the sub fielder, your young friend. You were telling me that you'd met up with Emma Hughes recently. She'd come to stay with you for a little while, needing a place to stay. Well, she's taken a catch as a sub at mid-wicket, inside the circle. It's 1 for 72, becoming 2 for 72 as Nicole Bolton falls.
Yeah, and that's a really big wicket there for the Sixers, and I'm just so happy for Emma Hughes. She was in the squad last year, first opportunity. She's from Dubbo. Exciting to see her take a catch out there, and well done to the Sixers and well bowled.
Bolton gone for 18. She faced 26 deliveries in scoring those runs, so it wasn't her most fluent best, and at 2 for 72, this now starts to make things more interesting. The Scorchers need another, 68 runs from 64 deliveries?
Yeah, I don't know if that shot was on. There was no need to do that right then. Just got a top edge, and it's just a really easy catch for Emma Hughes. But that was a breakthrough the Sixers needed, and the weight falls onto Beth Mooney's shoulders now, which it has over the past couple of years, and she's done a tremendous job of holding all that weight.
Yeah, she's the driver behind the Brisbane Heat, winning the last 2 titles, and pretty much the sole responsibility for the Perth Scorchers making a big score at this point. Down the wicket shuffles Mooney and drives it through cover for 4. Well, that's exactly what we were talking about before. Goes along the carpet more often than not and just has such control in picking the gap. They had a cover fielder inside the ring, and she went just square of her, made sure she placed it, and against a leg spinner turning the ball back into you, not an easy shot to play.
Yeah, really hard, and shot selection was really good there by Mooney.
2 for 76 as Vanderkerk comes in to Mooney, who advances, drives her down the ground, and will just take a comfortable single with long off and a long on back. Take the score on to 2 for 77.
Yeah, fantastic work there, Vanderkerk.
It's the midway part of the innings. 2 for 77 after 10 overs. The Perth Scorchers out there with the bat. Beth Mooney on 42 and Heather Graham yet to face a ball. I'll be making way, and just in a minute you'll hear the dulcet tones of Mel Farrell.
The WBBL on ABC Radio, digital and the ABC Listen app.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling the pressure now to be dulcet after that introduction.
You have got dulcet tones. You were feeling hot before, now you've got dulcet tones.
Oh, this is a good day for me, really, isn't it? I should come to Blacktown more often.
That's a great place out here at Blacktown in Rudy Hill. And where else would you want to play cricket? It's pretty good out here.
It certainly is a beautiful afternoon. The shadows now from this grandstand just creeping a little bit further onto the outfield in front of us as the players have drinks. 2 for 77. The Scorchers chasing 138 for victory. And they're looking good at the moment, but despite losing the wickets of Sophie Devine and Nicole Bolton, just looking at Beth Mooney, we were talking before about how she often struggles in the heat, and she was calling for the extra drinks there, I think, and you could see her starting to perhaps go a little bit red. I do remember her in the final a couple of years ago against the Sixers when she was playing for the Heat. Her face was basically the colour of the Sixers.
It was beetroot, wasn't it?
She was bright pink, and they were bringing in drinks all the time, the ice vests and everything. But she played the pivotal innings that day that won the Heat the title against the Sixers.
Yeah, well, she's such an enormous prospect in this game, isn't she? Still at a young age, and she's certainly the key here for the Scorchers. But yeah, she doesn't she doesn't handle the heat as well as some other players, but gee, she stays out there, doesn't she? She never gives up or gives in.
She certainly doesn't. She is on strike at the moment as Erin Burns comes into the attack after the drinks break. She bowls over the wicket and it's driven very correctly to Sarah Ailey in the covers. So no run there.
I'm pumped to see Erin Burns actually get a bowl. It's really exciting to see her in action.
She's there once more over the wicket, and this time the ball's just turned gently onto the leg side. It's a bit of a drop and run. Fielders running in from the deep. They turn, think about going for a second, but in the end they decide against it. So just the single, 2 for 78.
And she made her way into the Australian side and was part of that World Cup winning squad earlier this year. So she has got really good experience, Erin Burns. Been around the game for a long time now.
This time she'll get a chance to bowl to Heather Graham, who is now on strike. So we have a left and right-hand combination now. Graham waits and she goes for just a little paddle, a lovely delicate paddle. That's really well played. Sarah Ailey's got her hands full trying to chase that to the boundary rope. There's a big dive. She flicks it back in and I think she's done it successfully and saved a run. Brilliant fielding there by the veteran in the field, but beautifully played by Heather Graham.
Oh, great running there, Sarah Ailey. She never gave up, did she? It was like it was almost going to beat her, and then she's done this big dive at the end and just saved her team a run there. Great shot, though.
So 2 for 81. And Mooney on strike as Burns comes in, bowls. It's full and it's quicker, and she just plays it back to the bowler for a dot ball.
Yeah, they need a few more dots here. They desperately need a wicket here, the Sixers.
Certainly been a contrasting innings as Burns comes in once more. Big stride forward from Mooney and driven hard, but Burns drops to the ground, gets a hand on it and prevents a run.
Well, Mel, as well, we've got to remember Cap's not out there either. She's one of the best bowlers in the world and Sixers don't have her at disposal today.
They don't. It's Burns bowling and driven straight down to long off by Mooney, and they stroll through for a single, and there you go. That's what the Sixers did for a lot of their innings. And I'm going to ask you, as that is the end of the over, 2 for 81, is that a really distinctive difference between the two? And how much might that come back to bite the Sydney Sixers?
Yeah, a little bit. Mooney is so good at pushing those twos. So is Perry as well, but maybe that Cap was feeling that heart condition that she's got a little bit earlier than what we sort of thought. So it is pretty warm out here, but you definitely have to try and push that. So I think the Sixers are probably 10 to 15 runs shorter, but you can see the contrast with the Scorchers. They're always trying to scamper that second run.
Ash Gardner now to bowl to Mooney. She's over the wicket. Mooney comes down the wicket, takes a big woolly whooshka, as Gozzy would say. The ball trickles down fine. They will run through and come back for a second. So I'm not really even entirely sure what that was.
Oh, that was a big swipe outside off stump. Van Niekerk just bowled a really good length there, and that looked like a little bit of a tired shot, didn't it? Little bit tired.
It did, perhaps. So Mooney, maybe the heat's getting to her. As Van Niekerk bowls around the wicket, and they've just dropped that one square on the offside and run brilliantly through for a single. The ball's not having to go far, and they're still picking up those runs.
Yeah, they've looked a bit sloppy in the field. It was the same with the Sixers on Sunday at Hurstville. They just weren't so much up and about in the field and sort of continued on a little bit here.
Just a few fielding adjustments going on as you can hear people clapping. Good crowd. A few more on the hill now on the grassy banks. Van Niekerk bowls over the wicket, takes it on the full, does Graham, and just paddles it down the ground to the fielder at long on for a single.
And that's all they need to do now. They're ahead of the run rate required, so they can just milk their ones and then wait for that bad ball, which unfortunately for the Sixers, it has come. Probably Ash Gardner's been the pick of the bowlers so far.
2 for 86, the Scorchers chasing 138 for victory. Van Niekerk in. It's swept fine by Mooney, and there is a fielder running down towards that fine leg area, and they will come back for a second again. So feeling the heat or not, they're doing a good job in pushing this scoring along.
Yeah, it's a really good shot by Mooney. They just bowled a bit too leg side here, the Sixers, I think, and Mooney's just eating that up.
She's on 49. Can she get her half century here? She comes down the wicket and drives. Fielder running in from long off. They will be content with the single, and that does bring up the half century for Beth Mooney. She has batted brilliantly today in steering this chase. She's had players fall around her. Good partnership with Nicole Bolton. Now out here with Heather Graham. And she is steering the chase nicely. Great innings from her.
Yeah, another normal Beth Mooney innings, really, isn't it? So, yeah, one of the best batters in the world.
Graham now on strike, though, as Van Niekerk bowls, and it's played straight back down the ground, but there is a fielder at straight mid-on, and so that will be a dot ball to finish Dane Van Niekerk's over. And the Scorchers are 2 for 89 with that target of 138 creeping ever closer, and at a fairly comfortable rate too.
Yeah, and look, they got on top of this run chase pretty early. The first over went for 10 off Stella Campbell and 13 off Perry in the second, so they were already ahead of that required run rate really early on, and they really nailed that power play. So it's made it a difficult task for the Sixers to try and catch up in the back end.
It's a really lovely atmosphere here. Lots of fans here. And I've just noticed that Charlotte Annaville's been waving to her fans down in front of us in the commentary box. She's loving this.
You know, Charlotte was talking about fast bowlers before and, you know, how hard it is. That's why she swapped to spin bowling halfway through her career. So,
speaking of spin, Erin Burns is on to bowl. Beth Mooney on strike. She dances down the wicket, takes it on the full and just whips it through mid-wicket. There are two fielders converging in the deep. They will come back for a second run to 491.
Now, Mel, you've watched a lot of cricket as well. I think Beth Mooney is probably the best gap hitter in women's cricket. Always. Unbelievable how often she hits a gap.
It's funny, isn't it, how some batters can be so correct and still manage to hit it straight to the fielder. This time she's found the gap again. She drives past the fielder in the covers, and there is someone running around in the deep, though, so they'll just get the single. It takes them, gives them another run, ever closer. She's a great story, Beth Mooney. Struggled to get into the Australian side as a keeper because of Elisa Heatley's presence there, but has done it on her batting alone, and you wouldn't leave her out now.
No, not at all.
Graham on strike now as Burns comes in over the wicket. It's full and it's belted square straight in front of us in the commentary box. That went to the boundary in about 0.2 of a second. Beautifully spanked there by Graham, and that's another 4 runs to the total. And the Sixers are going to have to pull out something pretty special here to slow this Scorchers train.
Yeah, they're on the bus at the moment, aren't they?
2 for 96. Requiring 138 for victory. It's Graham on strike. She drives straight back to Erin Burns, who takes this down on her knees, prevents the run.
And they're missing Silver Holmes is out of this side as well, and Lisa Griffiths. So another 2 fast bowling options, which they don't have to date.
It's been a tough one for the Sixers, but now Erin Burns has taken the wicket. There was a big swipe by Heather Graham, and the ball just nipped off the top bails, and she is making the walk back now to the dugout, and that was desperately needed by the Sixers, and Erin Burns delivers. The 3rd wicket falling for the Scorchers, that of Heather Graham.
Yeah, that's a big wicket, isn't it?
It is indeed. She departs for 8, but Beth Mooney is still out there. The Sixers have managed to grab another one. The Scorchers 3 for 96 with a target for victory remaining at 138.
Yeah, and a really important wicket there for Erin Burns, and probably should have gone on the front foot there. It just skidded through and cannoned into the stumps. So well bowled there by Burns, but they desperately need another couple of wickets here, Mel, or string some dots together just to try and drag this out to the 20th over.
Well, we've got 1 ball remaining of the 13th over at the moment. And the new batter at the crease, I'm just trying to... it's Paparo who's come in, I do believe. Yes, it is. Paparo is the new batter. So, tricky time for her to come in.
Yeah. Her job will just trying to get Mooney on strike as much as she can.
She waits the right-hander. She's got a full toss to start from Erin Burns, and she's just flicked that down through mid-wicket, so they will get a single, and that will keep Paparo on strike, which is perhaps what the Sixers would be hoping for after all. But that total, 3 for 97, and 137 the Sixers made earlier, so it's getting awfully close now.
Yeah, it certainly is. And while Beth Mooney's out there, you'd think the Scorchers have got this in hand as well. It's really tough. You don't have one of your best bowlers out there in cap, and gone back to experience now.
They have gone back to experience. Sarah Ailey. I'm so glad to hear her. Mitzi, they call her, because she's got big mitts.
With any ball near her, I think it'd be 1 in a million that she'd drop.
She also has the distinction of being the first player I ever commentated with.
Really?
I'm sure that's really high in her list of
Absolutely.
achievements.
I'll ask her about it later. Actually, she told me previously that was one of the highlights of her life.
Something that I'm sure that you'll say after this.
Oh, I do.
As well, Gozzy.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
No, she is a great player. And really interestingly, when we were talking at that time, she was worried that, might be the end of her career soon. But the WBBL has really allowed quite a few players to extend their careers beyond playing for their states. We've just got a little delay here now. I'm not quite sure. I think there's just a bit of shuffling with the field, perhaps. Fielder going down to third, right on the boundary rope, as Ailey runs into Paparo, who just flicks that off her toes, didn't really get hold of it. Elisa Healy just runs to her left, and they will get the single there, which takes them to 3 for 98.
And this is the challenge here for Sarah Ailey, bowling to Beth Mooney. She's been able to pick up, I think, 3 boundaries off her earlier spell. So this is where they need to try and get these dots together. That poor kid in the crowd's trying to get a bit support, but on their Pat Malone at the moment.
Oh, don't you hate that when you're trying to start a chant? No one else will join in. Mooney waits as Ailey comes in and bowls, steps forward, presses the ball into the covers, and that's terrific running. Fielder running in, shape to throw, but they were already home and hosed for the single, 3 for 99.
And we'll probably accept that the crowd here is probably pro Sixers, but I'm sure they're really enjoying the batting display by Beth Mooney and the Scorchers here this afternoon.
It's a great place to watch cricket here. You've got all the native trees that just frame the field beautifully as Ailey runs in, and this time Paparo takes another big step forward, just plays the ball to mid-wicket. So no run there, mid-on even.
Yeah, big job here for Paparo. Got to try and get Mooney on strike as much as she can.
She is on strike at the moment. They'll be happy to keep her there as Ailey comes in, and this time she lofts the ball directly to the fielder at mid-on, who takes the ball just above her head, and that is the end of a brief innings from Paparo. Well bowled by Sarah Ailey. The wily, experienced Sarah Ailey manages to get the breakthrough that may just send a few jitters in the Scorchers camp. That's the 4th wicket, rather, so 4 for 99. And all of a sudden, just a few questions coming in.
Well, you're right. Well bowled, Sarah Ailey. Just held up in the pitch a little bit, and Paparo was through her shot. So, unfortunately for her, she has to depart. But yeah, maybe a little glimmer of hope here for the Sixers.
Megan Banting is the new batter to come in. And look, we were talking about before perhaps the depth of batting in the Scorchers lineup. Once you get past sort of those top 3-4 players, what depth is there? And you've got Mooney around to really steer everything, but maybe the Sixers might feel at this point they can keep someone like Banting on strike and just starve Mooney. It'll put a lot of pressure on her.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm sure you've got Lauren Down in there as well. Gemma Barsby, who's quite capable with the bat as well. So, but you'd think the key is to try and starve the strike to Beth Mooney.
And Beth Mooney is at at the non-strikers end at the moment. This time the ball is just flicked on the leg side. I'll go through for a single, so that really is Megan Banting doing her job there. And with the first ball of the overs, she has put Mooney on strike.
Yeah, a bit too leg side there by Sarah Ailey. I'm sure she'll be sore tomorrow. She hasn't played a game so far in this campaign, but it's great to see her get a game, isn't it?
Yeah, that was actually called a leg by the umpires, so just flicking off on the other side to where we are in the commentary box. Mooney on strike, sweeping, missing, and the ball just bouncing off Elisa Healy's hands, but they still managed to get a single. So good, sharp running there again by these two. That is the end of the 12th over, and it brings up the 100 for the Scorchers. So they are 4 for 100, chasing 138. We say goodbye to Gozzi for now and welcome back to Charlotte Anneveld. Who knows, we might actually have a pretty exciting finish here.
Do you know what, Mel? I think it's going to be a very exciting finish this afternoon. The Scorchers look like that they were just going to romp at home, but, you know, a couple of quick wickets here from the Sixers and, you know, they're in with a shot here. It really could go either way at the moment. The next couple of overs will be key.
So Erin Burns to bowl to Beth Mooney, who comes down the track, takes it on the full, drives firmly, but straight to Sarah Ailey, who is just hovering there in the covers.
Well, you're not getting too many balls past Mitzi, are you?
It's a great nickname, really. It sounds like something you'd call a dog. Come here, Mitzi. Come here, Mitzi. But no. This time, Mooney drives down the ground to long off, and they will get a single. Don't tell her I said that. But doesn't it? Sounds like what you call a little puppy.
Yeah, well, I guess, Mel, what stays in these four walls will stay in these four walls.
So everyone out there listening, please don't tell Sarah Ailey that I said Mitzi sounds like what you might call her.
No, she's one of the best fielders in the game, and for someone of her age still running around with 15-year-olds is a credit to her. She certainly works hard.
Banting on strike, Burns over the wicket. It's a flatter one darted in. She didn't really strike that as cleanly as she might have liked, and she will just get a dot ball from that one. Erin Burns. 4 for 102. That kid out there still trying to get the chant going. This time it's well driven by Banting down to long on, where Elise Perry picks up, and they'll get the single.
And something we've seen in the last couple of overs is the Scorchers were going really well at hitting the gaps, but they've just been hitting a few, probably too many, straight to the fielders of late.
So 4 for 103, and now Mooney on strike to Burns, and she does hit the gap, just turns the ball on the leg side, but is only able to get a single as a fielder down in deep mid-wicket runs around to prevent the second run. So this is quite good from the Sixers.
Yeah, gee, Mooney's a good batter, isn't she? And, you know, she's got a good head on her shoulders, and she'll know exactly what she needs to do out there. And I don't think we'll see Mooney do anything drastic. She'll just, you know, do the job, get it over and done with, and hopefully for the Scorchers lead them to a win.
So Banting, though, now on strike. It's full and dug out by Banting straight back to the bowler. So a dot ball there, which will be okay for the Scorchers. They'll be pretty happy because that is the end of the over, and that means that Beth Mooney will be on strike. So 15 overs gone, 5 overs remaining. The Scorchers are at 4 for 104, chasing 138 for victory, and I'm going to let the wonderful Jeff Lemon bring it on home.
The WBBL.
Hi, I'm Elise Perry.
I'm Elisa Healy.
I'm Ash Gardner.
On ABC Radio, digital and the ABC Listen app.
You're on ABC Grandstand with Jeff Lemon and Charlotte Anneveld. The Sixers and the Scorchers. It's 4 for 104. They need 34 runs, the Perth Scorchers, from the last 5 overs. And it is going to be Sarah Ailey. We have to call her the veteran. Those are the rules of sports broadcasting. Outside the off stump, she's bowling to Beth Mooney, who's driving it straight to cover and won't get a run. Things starting to tighten up in these last 5.
Yeah, we've just seen some more dancing up in the commentary box from Jeff Lemon, and, you know, maybe you and Elise Perry with her Perry moves on the field can put a number together.
Well, I'm always willing to choreograph with anybody who likes to feel the rhythm. On the pads of Mooney, she's stabbing it away to the leg side. Through for one. They'll turn around and come back for the second. That's good running with deep square leg back. A fair bit of work to do coming in off the rope, Angela Reeks, and so 2 runs added to the total, 4 for 106. They need 31. They've got 28 balls remaining. Sarah Ailey wants to be bowling at anyone other than Beth Mooney. Just got to try to get her off the strike. That's the Sixers' route to victory. On the pads, Mooney drops it into the leg side, and that will do the job because she'll get a single. And now there's the chance to exert some pressure on Megan Banting. Left-hander to right-hander. Banting has struggled at this level of the competition. Hasn't had a lot of innings over the years, but she was an original Scorcher. She played in their very first season. Was on the list for about 3 seasons, I think. Dropped off for a couple, back on this year. But has never put together a score of note. Just needs to do a job and find a run. Instead, she's driving it straight to mid-off, where the subfielder Emma Hughes picks it up. And that'll be a dot ball, the last thing the Scorchers need. Megan Banting played a nice little cameo at North Sydney the other night. Made 18, but that's her highest score thus far in Big Bash cricket. Got to find a way at some point to make it count at this level. Ailey to Banting, who's driving to the onside, works it nicely, turning her wrists at the point of impact to make sure the ball went square of the mid-on, out to deep mid-wicket for 1. And that will give Mooney the strike from the last ball, 4 for 108.
Yeah, it was a bit of a holly-hoik there by Banting, but it did the job. And Banting's job out there now is just to get off strike, get the single, and get the set batter in Mooney back on to hopefully finish this off.
Mooney waiting for Ailey around the wicket to the left-hander, just tapping it down to mid-on. Running with the stroke is Mooney, and had there been a throw at the stumps from Emma Hughes, she might have been in a bit of strife, but perhaps the young subfielder wasn't confident to let rip with one stump to aim at. She held the ball in her hand in the end, so just a single. 4 for 109. They need 138 to win. So they're 29 from victory from the last 4 overs, 29 from 24 balls. If Mooney's on strike, they'll get there. If she's dismissed, they probably won't. That's where this match sits at the moment.
Yeah, and that was probably just a bit of inexperience there by Emma Hughes. There was no fast feed or hustle to the ball, and there was definitely an opportunity there at the non-striker's end for a potential run out. We've just seen Mooney have another drink, and we know in the past the heat's really affected her, and she's been out there all innings so far. I don't think she's been off the field at all. Coming off the fielding innings and now batting, and you know, she'll just have to keep her head and play smart and try and finish this off here for the Scorchers.
Ashley Gardner will bowl her off breaks from the Nurrunginji end here at Blacktown. She's setting her field. So she's got Mooney on strike. She's got 4 in the circle on the offside. No one in the deep bar, a long off. And long on, deep mid-wicket, deep backward square, and a mid-on. Down the wicket comes Mooney. Drives it to the deep set mid-off, and this time there is a throw at the stumps, but wide. Mooney scampering through for the single. 4 for 110. They need 28 from 23 balls. Pressure back on Banting now.
Yeah, and this is something that the Scorchers are doing really well that we just didn't see in the Sixers innings, and that's just, you know, hitting and running, picking the gaps and really pushing hard for each run, and they're definitely running fast between the wickets, and the Sixers we just saw strolling.
Same sort of field in the inverse for the right-handed Banting. Takes her time to check out where everybody's positioned. Waits for Gardner, who's still bowling around the wicket to the right-hander. Lofts it down the ground, nicely struck. Won't beat the long-off fielder, though. Only a single. That gets Mooney back onto the strike. 4 for 111.
Yeah, well, she hit that quite nicely. She just put a foot forward and stayed nice and still and balanced and just lofted that straight back over Gardner's head. And it's always good when you hit the ball back over the old bowler's head.
Any width, and Mooney can go over cover here with the field up. Instead, she goes straight to cover. Runs with the strike. Could be in trouble at the non-striker's end. She makes it home. And they would have got an overthrow, except she's crashed into the bowler and ended up flat on her back on the ground. And Mooney in a bit of discomfort. She's dragging herself to her feet now and dusting herself off. But the throw came in from Maddie Dark, is it, who's come into the team. She pinged at the non-striker stumps, missed them. The ball bounced a long way out towards what would have been deep mid-wicket. And instead of being able to turn and run back for an extra thanks to the errant throw, Mooney's got the physio out there tending to her at the non-striker's end after a hip and shoulder from Ash Gardner. It's 4 for 112.
Yeah, well, I don't think I'd be wanting to run into Ashley Gardner. She's a very strong young lady, and, you know, could this be another key turning moment in the game? We saw Cap going off. It definitely halted the momentum of the Sixers, and now with Mooney, she's clearly tired, exhausted, you know, affected by the heat out there, and, you know, they need her to stay out there if they're to win.
Well, she's sent the physio off, and she's leaning on her bat at the non-striker's end now. She's happy to go on. Gardner bowling to Banting, down on one knee, slog sweep down the ground, and she'll be caught. She's dropped it long on, and it's been spilled over the rope by Elise Perry. She had it in her hands, and she might have just dropped the game there. That should have been caught. She had a way to move around to her left, but she was mobile. She got there. She was positioned under that ball, and just as it reached her, it has clipped out of her hands, standing right on the rope and dropped over the rope. So Megan Banting, who was on 3, has gone to 9 with a fortuitous 6. Hit very straight, probably looking to go a bit squarer than that, and Perry had her face in her hands. The score's up to 4 for 118 as Banting plays a similar shot, but along the ground this time. It goes just to the offside, out to long off, and she'll get through for a single. So however it's come, she's done a job for her team. 4 for 119. That means they need 19 more to win, with 19 deliveries to face. Well, Gardner.
They say catches win matches, don't they? And could that be a moment that Perry will rue?
Well, even dropping it inside the rope wouldn't have been so bad, but to tip it over for 6, Mooney drives at mid-off, beats the dive of Dark coming across from extra cover down the ground for a single, so she keeps the strike. Crucially, 4 for 120. 18 needed from 18 deliveries. And it's really up to the Sydney Sixers to try to put some pressure on here, but you can't find much of a greater release of pressure than dropping a catch for 6.
No, certainly not. And, you know, 18 off 18, the Scorchers are certainly in the box seat, and the way that they've been batting so far in this innings, just looking at the gaps, looking to drop and run, and really batting with a lot of intent. You know, unless the Sixers can pick up another wicket or two here, I think the Scorchers will run away with this.
Elise Perry had a sort of indifferent day. Her 2 overs gone for 22 runs. She made 62 off 52, I think it was, but just didn't quite get going, didn't quite have the acceleration later in the innings. It wasn't exactly clicking for her with the bat. I know that's harsh, but she has very high standards and didn't quite live up to them, and now dropping that catch down the ground, conceding the 6. So 18 needed from 18. Sarah Ailey with the responsibility to pull it back. Bowling to Mooney, who's driving straight. It's going to beat extra cover down to long off. Same as the closing ball of the last over. Through for a single only, 4 for 121. Banting with the job once again.
Yeah, and I would expect Sarah Ailey here to bowl with a lot of change of pace. She's got a really good couple of different slower balls, and I think that's the way she's going to pick up another wicket here. Catch.
Ailey strides into the crease. She's bowling right arm over to the right-hander, who drives cleanly down to long off for 1. Her job done for the time being. 4 for 122. They need 16 off 16.
The Scorchers, for me, have been the best batters on this Blacktown wicket so far in this tournament. Blacktown, we keep saying, is low and slow, and you've got to play on the front foot. But the Scorchers have just made this wicket look easy.
Ailey wants to increase that degree of difficulty. Bowls to Mooney, full length, driven, bounces off the bowler as she tries to field in her follow through, and that allows them to dash through for another run. So 4 for 123. They need 15 off 15. That margin continuing to tighten. Ailey. Bowl to Banting, who goes down the ground again. A lofted shot again. This time she's almost held, but it just eludes the leaping, waving hands down at long on. Perry coming around from long off as well. Burns meeting her, and it's split them and gone for 4. So Megan Banting is finding a way to get it done. That time eluding the fielders. The score zips along to 4 for 127. They're only 11 short now, with 2 and a bit overs to come.
Well, another good shot there by Banting. She's just hitting the ball so well at the moment, just nice and still and balanced. And I think Perry just misread that a bit.
Ailey to Banting, who drives along the ground straight back into the bowler. And again, they'll take a run on the deflection. Maddie Dark sprinting in, Emma Hughes sprinting in, but neither of them could stop the single. So 4 for 128. The Perth Scorchers need 10 more. They've got 2 balls and 1 delivery remaining. Sarah Ailey, it hasn't really gone for her on her return. She's picked up a wicket. Been expensive by her standards. Gone for nearly 30 thus far. 1 ball to come. And just sparred away by Mooney. It beats the dive at cover and goes for 4. Well, that might be the game if the game wasn't gone. Maddie Dark, the young wicket-keeper who came into the team today as an injury replacement. She had a dive. She harbour bridged it a bit. It's got through her. And away to the boundary. Beth Mooney is taking the Perth Scorchers home. 2 overs to go. They're 4 for 132. And now they only need 6 from the last 12 deliveries.
Well, what an innings by Beth Mooney. And we can see she's hunched over again on her haunches and, you know, really struggling from the heat. But, you know, she's a fighter and she's batted well today and well supported by Banting at the end. Struck the ball quite well out to the boundary and played a really good supporting role for Mooney.
She's on 70 from 58 deliveries, Beth Mooney. She's been outstanding as she has been for 5 seasons before this at the Brisbane Heat. The original breakout talent of the WBBL, really. She made 400-plus runs in her first season when she was nowhere near the Australian team and forced them to pick her on that basis. And she's got better and better as the years have gone by. So 2 overs to come. And it is going to be Erin Burns to bowl her off breaks to Megan Banting. 12 balls, 6 runs. Wickets are the only way that the Sixers will have a hope here. Got to find a way to make the nerves go through the Perth Scorchers. Get a new batter in, strand them on strike for a few deliveries. But Burns goes short. Swept away into the deep, and it has been spilled by Sarah Ailey in the deep. The fielder who has never dropped a catch in her life, according to Michelle Cosco earlier today, has come in off the rope, diving forward, a tough chance, but she spilled it. And that is the tale of the Sixers' day. They've let the chances go when they had them. Top edge, big sweep, Megan Banting's second reprieve, 4 for 133. They need 5 from 11 balls. Burns into Bolton Mooney, who gets down low, preempts a sweep, but they've got Stella Campbell in at short fine leg, and she'll move in too quickly to allow a run.
I think this is a really good field. Erin's just got to bowl just outside off stump, bowl to her field here.
Banting, a fortunate 16. Burns bowls a low full toss as Mooney advances, drives down to long off, 3 for 1. She won't hustle back for the second. She will now because the ball has spilled away from Ash Gardner down there on the rope as she dived across to keep it in. So 2 more to the score, 4 for 135. They need 3 to win. It should be a formality from here. Beth Mooney on 72. Facing Burns, down the wicket. Yorks herself and digs it out back to the bowler, but deliveries to spare now.
Yeah, I think Mooney just needs to stay still in her crease there. She just came out a bit. Just keep playing to your strengths.
Mooney ignores the advice, advances, and just stuns the ball back to the bowler. Full face.
Don't worry, Jeff. No one ever listens to me.
You need a loud hailer from up here. Get the megaphone out. Mooney, 1 ball to come in the second last over. 3 runs from 7 required. Burns to Mooney, who advances again, digs it out again, races through, and there should be a run out, and there is at the striker's end. Mooney just went with the shot. It wasn't on. She just hit it back to the bowler. And Megan Banting has been run out at the non-striker's end. Well, that probably doesn't matter a great deal for the Scorchers because Mooney will be on strike for the final over, and that's perhaps more important than the wicket of Megan Banting, as much as she would have liked to be not out at the end. So in some ways a sacrifice. She's got herself through, but it was just up to Burns to roll the ball through to Elisa Healy at the striker's end, who tipped the bails off. So The 5th wicket goes down for the Perth Scorchers, 5 for 135. They need 3 to win off the last over. Lauren Down, the New Zealand international, is coming out to have a chat with Mooney, who is down on her haunches in between overs, just trying to compose herself, make sure that she can get through these last 6 balls and get the Scorchers to a win.
Yeah, it's a shame Banting was run out then. She was just on her haunches a bit and wasn't really expecting a run. And
well, there was no single there.
Definitely no single there, but, you know, Mooney, as you said, went with her shot and just kept going and, you know, ran her partner out. And, you know, only 3 runs to get. Hopefully Mooney can finish it off here.
Mooney had the advantage of being about 4 metres down the pitch when she started running, having charged Dane Vannekerk to bowl the last over. The leg spinner, Mooney walks at her, slaps her over mid-on, down the ground. There should be a dive from Ash Gardner to try to tip it back in, and she's just done so. But they're coming back for the 3rd run. There was almost a run out at the non-striker's end as well. Vannekerk tried to backhand it onto the stumps and missed. And that is 3 runs. They've done the job, the Perth Scorchers. The umpires are just going to check, I think, to make sure that the scoreboard is correct. But Mooney is down on her haunches. Lauren Down is shaking hands with a couple of Sixers players. And that is going to be the match. 5 for 138, the Perth Scorchers score. And they have chased it down with 5 balls to spare.
Well, the Sixers will be very disappointed with that. That's 2 wins in 2 losses, in a couple of days apart for the Sixers. And, you know, they were at the start of the tournament one of the teams to beat, potentially along with the Stars. And, you know, the Scorchers got off to a great start early. You know, 2 key wickets at the start of the Sixers innings. And once Cap and Perry came in, they consolidated well, and then unfortunately Cap went off the field injured, and they just never recovered, did they? They probably didn't get as many runs as they would have liked in 137, and, you know, Cap hasn't come on to bowl. Big loss there. Scorchers lost Devine early, big wicket coming off 100 on the weekend, and Bolton and Mooney, 2 world-class players, just, you know, went on and rotated that strike so well, played all around the ground and really set the Scorchers up for a win. And the Sixers today just bowled too many extras and just couldn't get their lines right. Banting, great little cameo at the end.
Beth Mooney, 75 not out from 64 deliveries. What an innings from her. You're on ABC Grandstand. Jeff Lemon with you. Charlotte Anneveld as well. And Michelle Gosco is going to jump in when she gets the headset on. Melinda Farrell's down on the boundary line. She'll be seeing if she can grab an interview with the captains at some stage. So we'll keep you posted there. But in the end, it all came down to Beth Mooney having the quality, Michelle, of that we knew that she had, and that's why the Perth Scorchers tried to recruit her.
Well, that's why she's one of the best T20 players in the world, not only in Australia and this WBBL competition, but you kind of feel the Sixers, they were short probably 15 runs, and losing Cap, it sort of stemmed their momentum a little bit when they were batting, and they just didn't carry on and accelerate, which we normally see from the Sixers. But when you lose Gardner and Healy early, it makes it a little bit difficult. The Sixers only scored 33 runs in that power play, and the Scorchers were at 1 for 55. So there's another sort of 22 runs that they were already behind the 8 ball, the Sixers. So I just think they just didn't accelerate. They still had wickets in the bank as well, and they just certainly needed to accelerate there. And well bowled by the Scorchers as well. They stuck to their plans, and Beth Mooney, what a superstar. I don't care how tired she gets. She can be tired the rest of her career. It's been a pleasure to watch her bat.
And this strange little thing where a few days ago the Scorchers had 1 win in the comp, and now they've knocked off the Sixers twice in a row, who, you know, on paper are a team with much more options who should be beating them every day of the week.
Yep, and I say often that, you know, you could have a great team on paper, but you play it on grass. So it's a weird competition, isn't it, that you can sort of lose a couple. And I spoke about it the other day about the momentum towards the back end of the competition, and you know, if you lose 3 or 4 games, you can still make the semi-finals. It's just about stringing those wins together, and the Scorchers certainly topping off one of the fancy teams in the Sixers have done a great job here at Blacktown.
They've done the double over them, so that puts the Scorchers into the top 4. They'll go from 5th to 4th after that result. leaves the Sixers a little bit vulnerable as well. They won the toss and batted earlier today. Captain Elise Perry decided to bat first. Elisa Healy caught by Sophie Devine off the bowling of Nicole Bolton for 4. At mid-off, Ash Gardner caught behind from Tennille Peschel for 3. So those were the 2 early blows that set them back. Perry with 62 not out and Marizanne Kapp with 33 not out put together a decent partnership, but Kapp had to retire hurt after a heart condition she's got, which is it's a vascular tachycardia. I've been looking that up in the break. She had to go off the field. Erin Burns was caught by Heather Graham from the bowling of Glenn for 10. Vanderkirk run out for 15 and Ange Reeks 6 not out. Melinda Farrell seems to be down there with somebody. No, she's waving her hand to say that is not the case. She's not with anybody at all. She's all on her own down there. So Bolton 1 for 19 off 3. Peschel 1 for 25 off 4. Glenn 1 for 31 off 4. Cleary none for 18. Graham none for 24. Devine none for 14. And Barsby none for 6 from a single over. That was the first innings. And then the Scorchers lost Sophie Devine early, caught behind from the bowling of Stella Campbell for 4. Nicole Bolton made 18 before being caught by the sub-fielder Emma Hughes from Vanderkirk for 18. I already said that. She made 18 twice. It was worth 36. Heather Graham bowled by Burns for 8. Chloe Paparo caught Burns, bowled Ailey for 2. Megan Banting run out for 17. Lauren Down didn't have to face a ball. And Beth Mooney was 75 not out. So that was 1 for 17 for Stella Campbell. None for 22 for Perry from 2 overs. A dirty day for her with the ball. None for 22 from the full 4 for Gardner. 1 for 32 from 4 for Sarah Ailey on her comeback. 1 for 23 for Dunne Vanderkirk and 1 for 19 from Erin Burns. But the stats don't tell the story of those couple of drop catches, both from Megan Banting, the one that Ailey dropped coming in from the fence and the one that Perry dropped that ended up going over the rope for 6. And it was an uncharacteristic day of mistakes, Gozzy, for the Sydney Sixers.
Yeah, they were a little bit short in the outfield there, the Sixers. And they just didn't look like a complete package today. They just looked off their game. The same happened on Sunday at Hurstville Oval.
We're just going to go down to Mel Farrell, who has collared Elise Perry down there. No, Sarah Ailey.
It is indeed Sarah Ailey that I have down with me. Sarah, a bit of a tough day for you. You had 2 bowlers go down beforehand, which gave you the opportunity to come in, but also losing Marizanne Kapp there. First of all, can you give us any sort of update about how she is?
Yeah, well, I guess when we came off, we heard that she's gone to hospital just for some tests, just to make sure that everything's okay, but she's kind of got an underlying issue that she already knows about. So, yeah, just trying to get it checked out to make sure everything's okay, and hopefully we'll have her back for the weekend.
What effect did that have on the rest of the team?
Oh, look, obviously when you lose a good player like that, you know, it affects everybody, but I think we knew that we still had a defendable score on the board. We just needed to make sure that we bowled good areas, and unfortunately we probably bowled a little bit too much width, and they were able to get on top of that. So, you know, we'll go away and we'll have a look at this game and we'll come back stronger for it.
The plan was, batting-wise, I know you didn't get out there, but to play fairly straight. Did you feel after that first innings that maybe you'd left a few wickets out, a few runs out there, rather? Oh,
yeah, definitely. I think, you know, we had a good partnership there, and obviously with Marizanne coming off, I suppose breaking that partnership. But, you know, I think it's a tricky wicket to bat on, and I think everybody knows that. So, you know, we'll take a lot of learnings from that, and I know that in the future, yeah, we'll obviously be looking to try and, I guess, pick up a lot more runs in those last 4 overs.
It was a tough end to the match as well. I don't like bringing up drop catches, but the captain dropped one as well, so I reckon you're all right. That makes it a bit easier. But that must have been a bit frustrating at the end, just not quite having those catches stick.
Yeah, it can be a little bit deflating, but I think we pegged them back really well, and we definitely put ourselves in a good position. They got off to a really good start, and we, in those middle overs, then I guess adjusted our lines and lengths and started bowling really well. So we did peg it back. We know that's, you know, if that's one of our worst performances, and obviously the game before where they beat us, if that's one of our worst performances, then, you know, we got a lot left in the tank to give.
Well, we know that you always do. It's great to see you back out there, Sarah. So enjoy the rest of the season.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mel, and lovely to hear from Sarah Ailey, who's gone up to 84 WBBL wickets. She's second all-time behind Molly Strano, and one of those players who deserves the love and respect that goes her way.
Yeah, she certainly does. Well loved within the cricket community and also outside, and one of the most respected players playing around. And, you know, I know that a lot of the younger girls look to her for leadership and also some knowledge, and she's been passing that on. She's also got an assistant coach role with the Sixers, so that's part of her role this year. Probably didn't expect to play today, but, you know, we've had Hayley Silver-Holmes out, she's walking around with a moon boot on, so hopefully she's not too bad for the Sixers. And, yeah, big games ahead for them.
Yeah, the Sydney Sixers, they've played 8 now, so 6 to go. They're on 10 points at the moment in third place. The Scorchers will come up to 4th spot to join them in the top 4. Any thoughts on who you like at this stage of the season, Charlotte, teams-wise? The Stars top, the Thunder second. Adelaide will drop out of the top 4 after this result.
Yeah, from what I've seen so far in the tournament, I really like the Stars. I think they have one of the most well-rounded teams. They've obviously got the superstar, the megastar.
We're going to see... Mel Farrell has collared herself another victim down on the boundary line.
I have collared myself another victim, and it's Beth Mooney, who I can report is still looking a bit flushed out there. We know that you feel the heat a bit, Beth, but didn't seem to be doing too much damage to you today.
No, it wasn't too bad. I think the girls were pretty kind to me on the sideline, running out a few drinks here and there. The breeze is quite nice, and Banting came in at the end and whacked a few boundaries, which made my life a bit easier.
Well, you lost the wicket of Sophie Devine earlier, who obviously had that brilliant century against the Sixers, but you seem to seamlessly just take on board the whole role of steering that innings home.
Yeah, I think the beauty of this team is we're pretty adaptable to whatever situation's thrown at us. Obviously, the other day, Soph and I had a pretty big partnership to start the game off. It wasn't to be today, but we know Soph's a world-class player, so I'm sure she'll turn it around again just like she did the other day. But I thought Bolts came out and batted exceptionally well too to get us a little partnership going after we lost that early wicket, and then obviously some small contributions across the board.
The Sixers seem to have the tactic to just play pretty much straight down the ground. You guys were maybe sort of tackling it a little bit differently. Tell us what you were thinking about the wicket and how you were approaching that chase.
Yeah, I think the wicket was definitely a lot easier when the ball was new. When the ball got a bit older and softer, it was quite hard to score with the field out. It sounds silly, but when it's a bit softer, it's hard to hit it as clean. So we knew we just had to hang in there and get the required run rate below 6 as quickly as possible, and then it was our game pretty much from there. You know you're on top when you only need to run a ball in T20 cricket, but at the same time against the Sixers, who are a world-class side, anything can happen, so I never count my chickens until they're hatched.
Well, they hatched today. That's the second win in a row against the Sixers, back-to-back victories. What sort of does that confidence, or what confidence does that give you at this stage of the competition?
I think just that. I think it gives us a lot of confidence and belief in this group that we can win from any position, whether we bat first or bat second. We've got a pretty versatile bowling and batting lineup, obviously led really well by Sophie Devine. I think we've had some outstanding contributions across the board. Tennille Peschel's been a real standout for me with the ball up front. Sarah Glenn too, just tying batters down the middle order, and obviously Nicole Bolton's been getting a job done, as well as Heather Graham. So I very much think that this group can go the whole way. We've obviously got a long way to go in this tournament, but we're onto a pretty good momentum swing.
It certainly has been a couple of terrific games. We'll let you go and enjoy a lovely ice bath. Thanks for talking to us, Beth.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mel. A very exhausted and justifiably exhausted Beth Mooney. 75 not out she made today to drive the Perth Scorchers to a win. 5 for 138 over the Sydney Sixers, who made 137 earlier today. Thanks for your company on ABC Grandstand. Melinda Farrell, Charlotte Anneveld and Michelle Gosco were along with me, Jeff Lemon, today. The Brisbane Heat will play the Sydney Thunder later tonight. The State of Origin will be on our broadcast stations, but then we'll be back on the ABC this weekend with 8 games across Saturday and Sunday. It just keeps coming. WBBL 06. We'll see you then.